Welcome to the Matter of Fact podcast, episode 2. Today we're starting out in a little bit of an accent.
Oh, they can read the whiteboard quite well. Could you just
If you got your screen
Just
full
move a
screen,
wee bit.
Yeah, if you've got your screen full screened, you should be able to read this pretty well.
Yeah, you wanna grab one side? We can hold it to the camera just real quick.
All right, here we go.
We're gonna give you a good 5 seconds. We're gonna at least want to see it for ourselves.
So
There you are.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a glare, but you
So
should
what's
be able
the
to see this pretty
topic?
well. It's like philosophy is the topic.
Talking a bit about philosophy today.
Now, if we're going to
sorry.
talk about philosophy, something David's done here is he's looked up the root words and he's looked up a little bit of the history of the word philosophy. Apparently, it has its roots in Greek. So the Greeks called philo love or friendship. They didn't have the word love or friendship. They had the word philo. So they were talking about
Good word.
their friendship. They were talking about their philo or their philo. I don't know how they said it, honestly. And then the Greeks also had a word. It was called Sophia. That's a pretty recognizable word. That's a name. And it means wisdom. So anyone whose daughter is named Sophia, just know you named your daughter wisdom. You probably already knew that. And then I'm sure it's in the book that they looked it up in. So the definition we use today, or at least in what dictionary? Webster's?
This is my dictionary because I took out it's like
Oh,
two-
you abridged
I
it.
tried to I tried to condense it.
Okay, so in a condensed version of Webster's dictionary, and under David's
Oxford actually.
Oxford, okay.
Yeah, which I don't trust all the way.
Under David's estimations, a more condensed and simplified and accurate
That's
version
right.
would be
DAYZ dictionary.
yeah, the study of fundamental aspects of nature. So if you're studying philosophy, you're studying the fundamental aspects of nature.
This could be the mind. This could be politics. This could be morals, ethics. This could be anything that you just can't get around. So an answer that has to be given.
Now, the average person, and I'm including myself in that because this is kind of how I see philosophy, they would hear the word philosophy and they would think, oh, someone's beliefs.
True, and to be fair, one definition of philosophy is that. Philosophy is a very
So-
multifaceted word.
Would you say it's accurate to say at least that philosophers throughout history have studied the fundamental aspects of nature and then through that they came to a personal creed or
Yes.
dogma or
Even if
belief system?
even if that dogma was I don't know. I don't know is still a decision.
True, and maybe you believe strongly in I don't know.
Yes, and that can be a whole different type of philosophy.
I would say I'm principled I don't knower.
I agree, but I finally found one objective truth that I have yet to see.
Fair.
Of course, I found it yesterday.
Yeah.
But it's like I
Yeah.
cannot imagine an argument against it.
Yeah.
I'll get into that later.
I'll play devil's advocate and try to argue against it for you, even though I pretty strongly agree with you.
Right, so it's gonna be tough.
But I'll do my best to come up with a good defense for why it's not true.
Right. We should talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
I want to talk about. Well, honestly, just going over the definition is almost enough of what is philosophy. I guess what else that we could say. Are you looking for the marker?
Yeah.
It's right here. I would say another important thing about philosophy that we can at least mention is that philosophy for a very, very long time has been a part of the human race. There is the oldest philosophers that we know of, or at least the oldest known philosopher. Obviously, we never met this guy. I think we found his writings or whatever. Thales, and he's pre-Socratic. And we will talk about what pre-Socratic means.
Yeah, that is a philosophical
Right, and
term.
it's because of the main guy, the Jesus of philosophy, damn near. No one knows if he was a real guy.
He's a martyr for
Martyr-
philosophy.
Martyr is a great word. So is Jesus. Jesus is a martyr.
Right.
So he is literally the Jesus of philosophy.
Yeah.
But he was Socrates, and he was in the 400 BCs, I believe. He was about 400 years before Christ. 450.
About almost 2,500 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, 2,424
Right.
years.
And he created he unknowingly, but he did create it. Someone else named it for him, I suppose. But the Socratic method.
Yeah. He
And-
inspired people with his actions and his
Yes.
words.
I would say Seth. This might not be a completely true statement, but Seth probably appreciates Socrates more than me. Seth is probably more inspired by Socrates than me. He at least mentions him as a important figure in philosophy more often than I do.
I think the point he was making with his actions and with his doctrines
I'm going to light that up in a minute.
was a very important one. I appreciate Socrates because I believe that what he did laid a foundation for humanity to even be allowed to explore philosophy. Because at the time, the exploration of ideas that differed from the main ideas at the time, which were very religiously motivated
Dogma.
and things like that, it's like it was very discouraged to think outside of the norm. And what he did, and we can talk more about what happened because of what he did.
Right. Well, who contributed to the development of philosophy? I should have said that first. That's
Yeah.
the question we're going off of
Okay.
right now.
Starting here. So Socrates is not the first, not the very first.
But the first one to, shot hurled around the world.
He opened the door for other philosophers to even have a platform to stand on, because specifically what happened to him is he's asking the question, and actually David's originally the one that explained this to me. He's asking the question why. So when somebody says,
It's like talking to a 5-year-old.
yeah, it's like when somebody says an assumed truth, like
Clean your room.
Yeah, or like nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
If somebody asks you nobody's perfect,
Or said to
and
you.
you have no understanding of the universe or what would lead to that conclusion, you might ask why. Why is no one perfect? Even if it's true, why is it true? And if you've ever had a 5-year-old ask you the question why 1,000 times in a row,
That's Socrates.
you might think it's understandably frustrating. But Socrates did this, and he was trying to make a point, which is that if we're looking for objective truth, which a lot of people believed they had, then we can prove it's objective or not through logic, which he didn't say logic.
Logos.
Did he say logos?
I don't think Logos
I think it was Aristotle.
Yeah, Aristotle, I believe, invented. No, Heraclitus was the first known, and he was before Socrates.
Okay.
So Logos was around.
So even Socrates.
It might not have been that used.
Oh yeah, because it was during the democratic era of Rome.
Plato, I'm pretty sure Socrates did not like democracy.
Fair.
I don't remember exactly why. But what were you saying? I'm going to look this up real quick.
He might have been the one that called it mob rule or something like that.
I'm going to say who first used Logos. I'm pretty sure it's Heraclitus.
So whether he was knowingly using logic or just by nature he was using logic, what he was doing was he was attempting to open people's mind to the possibility that what they were saying was misleading, or that they had been misled, or to even question it. It's the basis of philosophy and of logical and rational thinking, which is to question the validity of what we assume is true.
And he would just walk around the public and just go up to people and start asking them questions.
Yeah. It's like, do you think white people are better than other people, you know? And they're like, well, I'm white, yeah. He's like, why? And they're like, well, the other people don't eat with a fork, and I like eating with a fork. Why?
Because it's more sophisticated. That's probably
why?
That's not what they would say.
Yeah, and it's like, why? And it's like, why?
It takes
like,
more because...
and eventually they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And he's like, exactly. You
And he
don't
walks
fucking
away.
know. You don't fucking know.
Yeah.
And that's a huge point that he's trying to make, is humanity is not quite so certainly perfectly sure of the truth as we like to think we are.
And this upset the government at the time and the officials.
And the people and everyone.
This upset a lot of people.
Mhm.
Do you remember what he was tagged with? Like, what was he charged with?
Like corrupting the youth.
Yes, corrupting the youth.
Yeah, so it's like he was getting youthful people to ask why. And he was getting youthful people to question the reality they were in and the leadership around them and whether or not the life they were living based on the rules they were given was actually a logical, rational way to live. And
moral corruption and impiety?
Couldn't define it.
Oh my God, we get to define a word right here?
I was going to write this down.
Impiety, lack of piety or reverence, especially for a god. What does piety mean? The quality of being religious or reverent.
So impiety is what?
Impiety is lack of piety or reverence, especially for a god. So impiety usually means let's just say in a religious sense.
So if somebody is pious, they have piety. So a pious priest is perfectly pious.
Right. Is that why it's priest? It's almost the exact same spelling.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I know pious is someone someone who has piety is pious. I know that.
Okay.
So we're just going to go ahead and break out because we're doing segments. We're currently on the question quest.
We just have, as long as we're getting to, because there's 2 more philosophers at least.
Yeah.
And you know who those 2 are.
Yes.
That we have to hit.
So I just want to point out that over here we've got our vocab lab.
Yes. We got the question quest and the vocab lab on Matter of Fact. We like creating names here. We're pretty good at it.
It's our segments. This is what we've got different things we're trying to talk about. When we talk about philosophy, we also want to talk about the words we use to talk about philosophy and their definitions because it's important to be aware of what you're talking about when you're talking about it.
Are we operating on the same grounds or not?
Right. Due diligence is a foundation we could all stand on together so that we can communicate more accurately.
Look up the words you use. It's very important.
Even if you understand, and I even understand, that words are made up.
We decide what they mean.
We made them up, but we did it for a reason. We also made up all the other tools we use, but we made them up for a reason. And language is a very complex and valuable tool that we can use to accurately talk to one another. And if we can agree at least on the meaning of words, then that means when I use a word, if David agrees with me on its meaning, then I get to just use that word, and David will understand what I mean.
And if we have a debate, or if we agree on something, we actually know if we agree or don't agree on it.
Yeah.
It's not just like, well, what do you mean when you say philosophy?
And then what happens is, and this is a little bit of a tangent, we'll get back to this, but
yeah, I have a question literally for right after this that will lead it right back in.
So what can happen is, and you may have experienced this, you might use a word and somebody's like, I don't agree with you. And then if you're just like, oh, well, what do you think this word means?
Yeah.
And then I talk about what I meant with the word. And then we look up the word. And then we're like, okay, we can stand on the same foundation. And maybe at the end of that, I'm like, that's not really what I meant.
Right. Let me change my wording.
Yeah. I thought the word meant something different. I can pick a different word. And then now you're communicating more accurately because you're finding a place to stand on together where you agree on at least the meaning of the words so you can even move forward. You're never going to agree if you're just using words that you don't agree on.
It's the most used form of communication that we have, at least deliberately. Like body language communicates a lot.
Yeah,
but
the most conscious form of communication.
The most conscious form of communication, which, you can move your hands however you want, but you can pick almost an infinite amount of words to choose from. Yeah. It's very important to know.
Yeah.
My question was, what else do you think is important to mention about Socrates before we go to the next?
They hated him so much.
Yeah.
Yet he was so sure of himself that they sentenced him to drink a poison called hemlock, and he stubbornly, principledly chose to drink it, which will kill him. And he did so because one belief he was trying to espouse was...
Great word. I'm going to write that on vocab lab.
Espouse.
Espouse definition.
It was that maybe death's not such a bad thing. We don't know for sure. Why is death so bad? What do you know for sure that death is bad? You don't know what happens when you die. Could be very good. If you're going to heaven afterward, maybe your human death was a great thing. Who knows? But either way, he was trying to prove that, and he was standing so strongly on his belief, even when challenged, that he said, okay, I'll drink the hemlock and die because I don't know that it'd be bad. And I think the biggest thing that does, the biggest point it proves, is that A, we're allowed to believe different things from one another, and I don't have to believe everything you believe. And B, we genuinely don't know for sure almost anything. Our senses are imperfect. We mentioned this on the first episode. Nothing is set in stone. We don't know absolute truths, or at least not very many of them. And it's important, even if something is assumed to be an absolute truth by everyone around you, like water's good, like water is healthy, question it, at least. Why is water good? Why is water healthy? You should at least ask. And if you can't come with a reason why water would be bad, okay, great. You've come to the conclusion now on your own that water's good. But you can't just be told water's good by everyone and then, okay, water's good, I'm not even going to ask. Like, his point was to ask the question.
I agree. Socrates laid a lot of a foundation for philosophy, and it was literally just through inquiry. It was through questioning. And I guess that is one tick that I would give him above any other philosopher. I ask a lot of questions. A lot of my writing and speech is used to inquire. So I could relate with him in that way.
And he almost didn't go any further than that. He said, ask the questions.
He's like, all right, bye.
And then people following him, inspired by what he said, started asking questions.
And then they probably started asking him. They're like, well, okay, well, fine. What do you think then? And he's like, I don't know. And then he walks away.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't know if this is true. I don't even know if Socrates was a real person, but apparently he was a disgusting-looking old man.
Oh, right.
So that didn't help with the public appeal.
Yeah. But it's like, what he said and what he did, some people latched onto it. People like Aristotle, people like Plato.
Dude,
latched on.
Who's next, though?
It's Aristotle.
No.
It's Plato?
Yes.
Okay.
Aristotle's third. So why is Plato next?
Plato, I don't believe he was a student of... Was he a student?
He was a direct student.
Okay. He was a corrupted youth.
Yes.
He was morally corrupted by Socrates, according to the people at the time.
I'm going to look it up as well.
He really latched on to what Socrates was saying and doing.
He was the student of Socrates.
The only?
And the teacher of Aristotle. I think he's...
Okay.
If he wasn't the only, he is by far unbelievably the biggest.
He's an important, very important student of
Yes.
Socrates. And he latched on to what Socrates said, and he expanded on it. He starts asking questions about the world around him. He starts studying the fundamental aspects of nature.
Yes.
He's trying to come to stronger, more convincing conclusions about the world than what the world is willing to just offer him. The world around him is offering him conclusions about itself. The people in the world are offering conclusions about the world that don't add up in Aristotle or Socrates' mind. And they're like, okay, I'm questioning this. Can we come up with an answer that's more satisfying or convincing?
Right. And here's something, I want to drop this in real quick. This is Western philosophy more than anything.
Fair.
We're tapping into a lot of Western philosophy.
And it makes sense because Greece is
right.
In the grand scheme of things, it's the West.
Yeah, when it comes to our mentalities and our culture.
Yeah, our whole culture
Western.
started in Greece.
Yeah.
And it expanded westward from there. And the Greek came up with the word philosophy. So when we talk about Western philosophy, well, the Eastern people don't even call it philosophy. They have their own words for it. And it was very separate from...
What, Eastern and Western?
The Eastern philosophy is very separate from Western philosophy.
Yeah, way more spiritual.
Yeah.
Way more theological.
Yeah. And they don't call it philosophy. That's the Western, the Greek word for it.
At least that's when it was started, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what word the Eastern used.
Confucius, who knows? I don't know. Like confusion.
Yeah. I'm going to look up what word did the East use for logos. Memra. M-E-M-R-A. Memra is an Aramaic. Okay, I think that's how you pronounce it. Word
that is how you pronounce it.
That means the word, and is related to the Hebrew word dabar, which also means word.
So the Bible.
Well, this was before the Bible.
Mm.
It's relating to literal word.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like how literally the whole point we were making with language being the most conscious version of communication. There's logos attached to it. There's logic. That's the only way that we can even connect the dots of what you're trying to say to me.
Right.
But yeah, Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy are fairly different. Mm-hmm. Philosophy as a whole, humanity has digested a lot of both Eastern and Western. I'm not saying that China is the exact same as America, because they're definitely not. Yeah. But philosophy resembles the study of fundamental aspects of nature, but we're just tapping into the Western right now. Yeah. People have credited Plato as being the footnotes for Western philosophy. Everyone since has literally just been building off the back of what Plato has said. Right. And that's not to say that someone else wouldn't have came up with the same thing. Yeah. Maybe humanity was just on its way to a breakthrough. Like, you never know.
It clearly, with the fact that Socrates taught the next generation Aristotle, who then taught the next generation Plato, they were clearly on a path toward this very philosophical way of thinking.
And it was very evolutionary. Because it was Socrates, who apparently never wrote a thing, which gives his entire existence a question. And then he taught Plato, who was like, okay, I'm writing all this shit down. Yeah. And then Plato taught Aristotle, who invented...
I flipped it, but yeah.
I didn't know if you did. I was trying to think. Yeah. But he taught Aristotle, who Aristotle is credited for teaching Alexander the Great.
Okay,
but Aristotle laid the groundwork, at least written, for logic as a concept. And then it was not, at least in the chronological development of philosophy, Western philosophy, took well over 1,000 years to be like, okay, better system. Yeah. Like, everybody was just decrypting that book and trying to make sense of it, or just praising it and giving it as much props as one could give. So Aristotle laid the groundworks for logic. Aristotle is a questionable philosopher because he didn't necessarily say things that modern people now would agree with. He had very sexist beliefs, very women are not as important as men type quotes, which makes people be like, okay, well, he's not credible then. That's not true, because he built a foundation for logical thought, which was almost a backbone to a lot of philosophy afterwards.
And a lot of philosophy in the past...
I'm going to look up Aristotle quotes about women.
Because, in a way, theology is a type of philosophy. It's an attempt to gain an understanding of the fundamental aspects of nature. Theology or religion is an attempt to have an answer for a lot of nature's questions.
Women are unfinished men.
Unfinished men, yeah.
Like, it's his words he's trying to mean objectively and logically.
Yes, yes.
And that almost makes it more offensive.
He's not intending to insult.
And it makes people more offended.
He's just trying to speak very matter-of-factly.
He's trying to look at the literal definitions of these words, at least at the time, what they meant, and to put them together concisely for everyone to understand. That is his goal. And then people are like, that guy said that with that in mind. How are we taking anything he's saying seriously? And that's not to say people say that about Aristotle, but Sigmund Freud, people do say that about Sigmund Freud.
Yeah, true.
People are like, well, if he thinks Oedipus complex, if he thinks a son wants to fuck his mother and a daughter wants to fuck her father, then how can we even say that an unconscious exists? How can we listen to this guy?
We're not going to talk about the ego. We're not going to talk about
this guy's crazy. We're not going to listen to what he's saying.
And so here it's like Aristotle. I was taught about Aristotle in school. I wouldn't say we just completely reject Aristotle, but if you're thinking, okay, Aristotle was sexist, so ideas that Aristotle had that we believe in today must be sexist. It's important to understand that through the acceptance of the ideas that people like Aristotle had, like logic and rationalism and reason.
Sorry, I'm making sure this is still on.
the world led from a very patriarchal, men in control, men in charge way of being. And that's how it was when Aristotle was alive.
Yeah, women can't vote. Women can't.
Men were in charge.
Yeah.
And then Aristotle said what he said and wrote what he wrote and taught who he taught. And the world, over the course of the next 2,000 years?
More than. He was before Christ.
Yeah, 2,200
2,200 years.
has gone nothing but more in the direction of logic, rationality,
True.
reason, and has become less sexist, less tribal, less racist.
Almost 400 years before Christ was when he was born.
And it's like, okay, so he was raised in a time where everyone believed men were more important already.
There were slaves.
Yeah. So
slaves were just around when he was born.
So it's like he was coming up with a very valuable tool, logic and rationality, mainly logic.
Yes.
That he wasn't even fully capable of using yet, because if he was fully rationalizing the world around him and fully using logic to observe the fundamental aspects of nature, he may have looked around himself and said, why are men in charge? Why are women treated as unfinished men?
It's almost like he was attempting to justify why, and justify is an interesting word, but why humanity came to that point.
Yeah. He was just pointing out an assumption humanity had already made.
Yes. Philosophy.
Yeah.
He was pointing out our perspective.
Yeah.
Philosophy is perspective.
Yes.
I really like that.
So, and then if we apply his principles of philosophy to the assumptions that were made at the time, we would ask the questions, why are men treated this way and women are treated this way? And because we did that, because Socrates said, question everything, we start to find the examples of when we're just making an assumption, like men are better than women. And humanity, over the course of a couple thousand years, asked those questions and came to the conclusion that, men are not just universally better than women or more important than women or etc.
Unfinished compared.
Yeah. There are very important women. There are
That's what he said.
Yeah, sorry. Unfinished. So there are very important men. There are very important women. There are unimportant men. There are unimportant women. As far as if we're just talking about the influence they have on the world or their impact on the world, there are men and women who both sit in their house their whole life and don't affect the world at all.
True.
And there are men and women who have made major strides in a lot of different fields.
Yeah, I mean.
And it's because philosophy pushed us to question our assumption about men and about women. So, thanks to Aristotle, the sexist, we are now less sexist. I'm not going to even just say we're all the way unsexist. I would just say we are at almost the least sexist state the world has been in for at least a couple thousand years.
I feel like we talk about it more than when we were the most sexist.
Even more of an indicator that we're willing to question sexism. We're willing to question this assumption that men are more important.
Just because they're stronger doesn't mean they're better.
Strength is valuable.
Yeah.
But not the only valuable tool. Wisdom is extremely valuable. And we get more wisdom from women than we do from men. We might get a lot of knowledge and logic and rationality from men, but we get a lot of
empathy.
Wisdom and nurturing and empathy. And
women offer empathy. Women offer an emotional perspective, which provides insight. Emotional perspectives are very revealing. They show humanity off at their most vulnerable, at their most raw versions.
We're two sides of a coin that need each other. Strength would mean nothing if it was used unwisely.
Leadership would mean nothing with no followers.
Wisdom would mean nothing if there was no strength or power to exercise it. An extremely wise bacteria makes no concrete or...
This is a quote. I wrote a sentence, I think a year ago, or maybe you said something that inspired me to write it, but power is empty without influence.
So it's like wisdom.
It's like a cause without a reaction.
Yeah. Wisdom is the influence. Wisdom is the sense of how to...
Are you passing that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wisdom is an inner sense of how to, and I'm not even really defining. This is how I perceive wisdom. It's an inner sense of how to use your power. Of course, you have the power, but what are you going to do with it? And the answers to that question often lie within wisdom, because some very unwise people have had a lot of power.
Right.
And they made unwise decisions and caused calamity.
I agree. I think wisdom is a lot about confrontation. Like, when I think of someone that is wise, or a wise question, 2 wise questions that I can think of are, what can you control and what can you not control?
Yeah.
Like, those are very wise questions, because they require honesty and they require persistence.
Yeah, because there's a part of your logical mind that's wanting to say, how do I control this thing?
And then anger,
yeah,
frustration, anxiety is caused because you're trying to wrap your hands around something that's too big for you to wrap your hands around.
Yeah.
You can't change time.
Yeah.
That's an important thing to know.
Yeah. Time can't change me.
Because if you accept that time is on its own terms, you also have to accept patience. That's not to say I'm completely patient. That's not at all what I'm communicating here. What I'm communicating is you should not ever want to feel more anger or anxiety than you have to, or that you're causing to yourself, that you're getting nothing out of. You're actually expending energy and effort and time into this thing that could go away if you were just ask yourself an honest question.
So you're saying you should not subject yourself to a higher level of anxiety than is necessary.
Right. And the definition of necessary could depend on the person. But
why shouldn't you?
Because if you overexpend yourself, it can push you into a state of nihilism, of meaninglessness. It can push you into a state of constant frustration. It can make you hate life. It can make you hate other people.
So it's illogical.
It's illogical and it's harmful.
Yeah, it's
like,
irrational.
Do you want to be harmed?
It doesn't lead to the outcome you're trying to get. You want to change the world around you. You want to control this aspect of the world around you that you deem to be harmful, or to be leading to a bad outcome. But then, because you can't control it, you increase your own anxiety, which could lead to even more bad outcomes. So because you want a good outcome, but you can't get it, you create more bad outcomes. It's irrational.
Right. And
the numbers don't add up.
Right, and it only makes it worse. So I think important confrontation is very important for becoming wise or wisdom. I'm trying to think of an example of someone that is unwilling to even ask or accept something about life that is not within their grasp, and they harm themselves because of it. And I think of a resentful person. This is who I'm thinking of. And I mean resentful in a lot of aspects. Resentful towards people, resentful towards life, towards time. Just a lot of things because these things in themselves are not going to change. Of course, you have the power to influence people and change people. What can you really do about time that isn't self-explanatory in itself? And what I mean by this is, imagine you want to get jacked. Imagine you want to gain a lot of muscle. But you're incredibly impatient and you want it today, right now. You want to be able to snap your finger and be buff and have a six-pack. Anger can stem from this. It can be very like, why am I not getting the result that I want? Why am I in pain and I can't go to the gym today? What do you mean I need to recover? Why do I have to go to the gym? I don't want to go. Why do I have to do all these hard things to get what I want out of life? And you're asking the wrong questions, I think. Or at least through those questions, maybe you can start asking the right ones. And the right ones to me are the ones that are coming from a place of acceptance about life and fundamental aspects of nature that just in their nature, they're stubborn. Like, you can't change the process of evolution. We just came to this point. I was born 24 years ago. It's too late for me to change anything about this.
Yeah.
It's important to know that. Because once you know that, you start letting go of a lot of questions that don't matter. And the reason they don't matter is because they can lead to trivial mindsets. They can lead to denial, incredible denial. and you're living in a world that's not your own, and you should want to live in a world that is your own. And the only way that you can get to that world is by answering questions, tough questions.
Can you answer the question? Not to interrupt.
No. I'm glad. I was trying to
Why
something.
do we have to go to the gym to get to help create a better or healthier body? What is happening? Why do I have to do that? Why does that get me a healthier body?
I'm gonna give you a biased answer.
Okay.
Real quick.
Okay.
It's somewhat biased. There's like this quote that's like, would it be true that the only way to get your ultimate desire is to go through the opposite of it? So to experience being rich, you have to also have experienced poverty. Or to even want the desire that much to be that rich.
Yeah. Or to understand the power of the rich.
So it's through the lessons of consistency and continuously showing up and breaking down. It's almost like a violent process. You're literally enforcing war on your biology. You're saying, all right, let's get up. Let's go to this place around other people and lift heavy things repeatedly until my muscles are essentially screaming at me to stop. It's a lot of adversity. There's a lot of things that your body's telling you to stop doing.
I think biology is a perfect answer. Of course, that in my mind, it's biology.
It was very a scientific answer. Mine's more of a philosophical answer.
I think science can offer, or maybe it's just the way I interpret the science is philosophical. There's a reason that going through, it's like, so you say you have to go through the opposite to achieve the goal you want. And I'm like, why?
Right. What's the science behind that?
Almost that explains the science. The science is biology.
So what? Is it like just a logical consensus?
I think there's a reason why.
I'm gonna define that to make sure I use it correctly.
I think there's a reason why, a philosophical reason why you have to go through the hard thing to get the good thing. And there's a philosophical reason why.
A general agreement with a judgment arrived at by most of those concerned. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
A consensus. So it's like one leads to the other. Biology is a thing. Your biology is telling is what's allowing your body to get stronger. You have genes in your DNA that respond to you working out and facilitate the growth of your muscles and your energy and your vitality because it detects
your metal.
It detects a strain on itself. It's like, oh, I am regularly picking up this much weight. I could expend less energy if quite literally you expend less energy by having bigger muscles to do the task.
Yes.
You avoid damage to your joints by having bigger muscles to do the task. So through evolution, through adaptation, our body is able to build muscle in order to do the task easier. But there's a reason behind that. So that was biology. The reason behind that is doing something hard will cause your biology to respond by making it easier in some way. And so then hard things become easy.
Isn't it weird what it communicates, though? Because it's a paradox. It's like the first time I went to the gym, I felt very embarrassed and disturbed and because
anxious.
Yeah, I looked ridiculous.
Yeah.
My form was insane. I was just
You're shaking.
I was painfully weak. I could hardly. Everything in my biology was saying no.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
This is not good. You're in a situation you don't. This is where the paradox comes in, where science is like confusing to me.
You're biologically we avoid the hard thing.
Right, but it's almost like patience in itself is not seen as more important in that moment.
Do you think everyone lives through exactly the same amount of struggle?
Definitely not.
So biologically, we're our body starts in a state of as much ease as possible. A baby doesn't have to do anything, and it can't. It not only can it not do the hard thing, it can't. It's like not even developing as much the ability to do the hard thing. And all our development is starting from being completely incapable and then slowly doing harder and harder and harder and harder things all the way up until we can do harder things.
Like joining a sport because it's fun. Like that's more of like your biology is not arguing. It's
Yeah.
actually rewarding you.
But your biology is attempting to only go as far as it has to because it's almost
trying to remain efficient. It doesn't want to.
It's like if I'm not gonna have to pick up 60 pounds every day, why would I?
Right.
I'm not gonna have to. So like somebody that lives a lavish life, where everything's taken care of for them and they never have to really do any of the hard things, because they're born into it.
Privilege.
Right. There's people I could point out like Donald Trump. Even if he never got a loan of $1 million, his dad was rich when he was growing up.
You mean a small loan?
Right. Sorry.
Yeah. That's the reason that it became a huge meme, bro.
A non-qualifier loan. I'm not describing it.
Right.
I'm just saying it's a loan that would have made him either way. It's like his dad raised him. His dad had money. His dad made sure that as Donald Trump was a child, I guarantee he never went unfed. I guarantee he never missed out on anything that money would provide.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know his life, but from what I've heard, that sounds to be true.
It's not to say that he hasn't had to figure out how to use large sums of money to make things happen. It's to say that he's never had to experience turning small amounts of money into large amounts of money to even be able to do the things he's doing. He doesn't have that experience. It's an experience a lot of people have that he will never have to have unless he goes completely broke.
Right.
So he'll never have to do that hard thing. So his body will never have to figure out how to do that hard thing. His body will never create a little spot inside of his brain where he knows the steps to getting out of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
That's a part of our brain we're developing.
That we have to give attention to.
Right. We have to figure out we have to work this muscle of.
And that's a great example too, because sometimes that hurts to look at.
Yeah. It's emotional. It's a completely internal thing. It's not even about your outside body as much. It's
like you're judging yourself.
Yeah.
You're like, how am I doing on this
Yeah.
competitive level?
Yeah. So it's like, no matter what you do, the more hard stuff you do, the easier those things become. And the easier it becomes to do hard things. But your biology is trying to never have to go past a point that it doesn't necessarily have to go past.
Right.
But you can consciously, unlike other animals, at least that we know of, you can consciously go past that and say, I'm going to do this hard thing
anyway
that I never had to do anyway.
Yeah.
And your unconscious body is still going to detect it as, oh, I have to do this thing every day.
Yes.
If you do it if you pick up 60 pounds, 10 reps every single day, eventually your body's just going to make it easier because your conscious mind's making it have to do it.
Right.
So biologically, we get an easier time when we do the hard thing a lot. Philosophically, we have to do the hard thing a lot because that's how we create the easy. And philosophically, the reason the hard thing is what we build up to is because the things that can do the hard thing, the beings, the humans or the animals or the whatever, that are able to do the harder thing better are the ones that lived.
Right, and this is where I want to bring up what we said at the beginning. The only objective truth that I can think of that is the closest to the 100th percentile, as in philosophy, theology, and science would all shake their hands in agreement to this, is health is always better than illness. 100% of the time. A healthy lifestyle is always better. And Joe Rogan's a great, what's the word here? Debater of this. Somebody will try to give someone the out because they're old or they're going through a hard time physically, like they're handicapped or something, like they're in a wheelchair. And then people are like, well, this gives them the out on fitness. It's like, I don't agree. I don't think it does. I'm not saying that they have to be a power lifter. I'm not saying that they should go attempt to do wheelchair marathons. You don't have to go beast mode, but you should at least go around something. Just go in a circle even of just doing this motion. Get in your body. Do something.
And here's another great point about that, because it's like what you're talking about is able-bodied people trying to give handicapped people the out.
Yeah, dismissing them
Like,
in that realm.
I'm gonna give them because
That's
if I was
not-
in that situation, actually no, because you don't know what it's like to be in that situation.
They have to know.
And I see wheelchair people, like people in wheelchairs.
People that are in wheelchairs.
Yeah, handicapped people.
It's horrible. I'm sorry that had to happen.
Yeah, but they're doing everything they can to exercise because they've had their ability to exercise at their peak stolen from them. They can't even do it. So they're like, well, I'm going to at least get what I can out of this body.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, if anything, more resentful toward able-bodied people who waste their ability. So somebody that can walk doesn't go to the gym.
Right.
People in wheelchairs are looking at them like, bro,
Right.
if I had what you have, I'd be at the gym every day.
Right.
And that's where they're also not seeing the other perspective, because the person in the wheelchair doesn't know what it's like now to have never lost their legs.
It's been ripped from them.
Yeah, to have every bit of privilege and to then be criticized for not using it exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the same as Donald Trump. He has every bit of privilege, but from my perspective, it's like I could sit here and demonize the way he's using his money, but I've never been in his position. And no matter what, because we can't erase time, I could never be
Right.
someone who was rich from the beginning and who didn't have to do anything super hard to have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what it's like to be in his mindset and to never have had to experience all the things that have given me the knowledge that I have as a person who hasn't had a lot of money, and how to make my life keep going even though I don't have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's missing out on that experience. There's a value I've gotten out of that experience that he will never get to have. So how can I even criticize him? Because I do not,
And he's gotten some value out of the contrary, but
Right.
maybe he just didn't have to go through the difficulties of it, or the.
I mean, it's almost scary. Like, imagine all the power shut down in the world. Donald Trump is less likely to survive
Oh yes.
than I am, because
Yes, he's a target.
I've had to, so I can.
Right.
And he didn't have to, so he can't.
Oh, I was thinking of like the enemies that he would have, but yeah, true.
Well, it's just even survival.
Yeah.
He's had, anytime he's hungry, he's had the money to pay for it.
Right. And this is another thing.
I've had to get creative about how I'm going to eat.
Right. Yes. And this is another thing. Eating right is always better than not eating right. And what I mean by that is hitting vitamins,
Mm-hmm.
getting water intake, well, I'm just going to stick with eating right now, because another thing for health is get a right amount of sleep.
Yeah.
That as well.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot imagine science, theology, or philosophy disagreeing on any of these.
Yeah.
And if they do, I believe they're in denial. And they're not only lying to me, but they're also lying to themselves.
Yeah. It's like philosophy is not a monolith. Science is not a monolith.
Because this could come off fat-phobic.
Yeah, true.
And that's fine.
I mean,
I think you're in denial.
I've seen people say this and they still get like vilified, but it's like I look at myself and I look at the health that I would like to have, and I look at the future I'd like to have, and I know that there's a lot of things that can damage my joints. There's a lot of things that can damage my health, and I want to feel good and feel energetic and feel happy and not depressed and not in pain and not laying in bed all the time. And so I identify with that.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense to me in my mind. And so, of course, I would want to look at other people who are not doing that. And
I
if
can
I'm,
give a great example.
yeah. But it's like, I wouldn't want to look at those people, and if I'm a moral human being who knows for sure that health is getting me where I want to go, I can't look at other people who are not doing what I see as healthy and be like, oh, they're living their life right. It's hard for me to take myself away from them and say, they're just living their life, and maybe they have their reasons, and I'm living my life, and I'm going to eat right, and I'm going to exercise, and I'm going to get the right amount of sleep. And it's hard for them to see me do that. And even if I never said anything to them, if I'm just talking about how I believe I should do it, that for them not to look at me and think, yeah, but I'm living my life for my reasons, and now you're attacking my life and my reasons, and they're getting offended from me. If I come off fat phobic just for saying I think I should eat a good diet and that's going to make my life better, it's like, do I think it would make your life better too? Yes, but that's not even my point. And now you're applying to me, or you're taking what I'm saying about myself and applying it to you and saying I disagree with the way you live. And I can't say I understand the way you live, but I'm not sitting here trying to tell you you have to live the way I want to live. But I am saying I genuinely believe you'd be healthier. But maybe you don't care about that. I don't know.
Well, I have an example, and I would love to talk about this. Because I couldn't think of any good example of someone that lives that lifestyle out and has said something to defend it. Mm-hmm. Paddy Pimblett, Paddy the Baddy, UFC fighter. He is known as, for whenever he is not getting ready for a fight, he will eat whatever he wants and become a literal gain 56. He becomes fat, and he doesn't even look like the same person.
Damn.
And his philosophy, when people ask him, is, I would rather be fat and happy than skinny or like with a six pack and miserable. And I sit with that. I'm like, okay, so that would be an argument against my health is always better.
Yeah.
That would be the best case example of my argument. The only way that I could respond to that is I would want to hear it from Paddy the Baddy himself. I would want to do a line of questioning with him. I would want to, because I am convinced. I'm going to say this right. I don't know you, Paddy. I know you're going to watch this one day. I don't know you. But I think that's cope, and I think that's denial. Maybe it works out right now because you're in your late 20s and you can live that out and go back and forth. But I think as you get older, and I think as just life continues, it's not going to be so sustainable and reliable to just gain 60 pounds of eating slob, as much of it that you can, on a consistent basis. I don't see that working out for you. I don't see that being what you actually choose. And if you do, I believe you will have a lower quality of life from following that. I believe that you are accepting harmful ideas that subject you to pain that isn't necessary, and you're accepting that. And it's not that I'm saying that 100% you should do this, and if you don't, what the fuck's wrong with you? You should be locked up forever. It's not at all what I'm saying. But I am saying I disagree. To anybody that lives their life like that, I disagree. And that's where I'm stepping into the realm of objective. This is where I'm forming a pillar of, okay, I need to defend this.
Yeah.
This is something I actually believe.
Yeah.
And the sad thing about that, and with philosophy, is when you start building these pillars of the most thing of objective about you, when you accept something to the 100th percentile, you subject people to it.
Mm-hmm.
You're forcing them into your reality.
Yeah.
And it's scary. It's scary territory. There are things about that I don't like, but I also believe it takes bravery to do something like that. But it also takes, to a degree, being stubborn. And it's tricky waters.
Is bravery always good?
Bravery can get you killed. Bravery can get you killed. If
you could bravely commit an atrocity.
You said, let's run across 70 with my eyes closed because that would require a lot of bravery. It's like, yeah then you're going to be smashed. You're going to die. Like,
I can't get up in front of millions of people and preach Arianism.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say bravery is always 100% the best option. No. It will get you killed.
It's like,
Depending
okay,
on how you use the bravery. That
so
makes it powerful.
This fighter, he says, He's picking joy. He's picking comfort.
I would rather be fat and happy than
Happiness.
fit and miserable.
Yeah.
Is what he's saying.
And it's like, right now, being fat is what's making him happy.
Right.
And 20 years from now, 30 years from now, maybe, his joints are going to hurt. His body's going to be worn out.
Yeah.
And
maybe he'll regret that. Maybe he'll say, I shouldn't have done that.
Maybe he'll change his lifestyle because at that point, being fat isn't making him happy.
Right.
Being fat's making him miserable. And maybe he'll get fit because he'd rather be fit and happy than fat and miserable. So it's almost like relative. It's like right now, being fat is what makes him happy, and he's choosing happiness. And maybe in the future, being fit will be what makes him happy, and he'll choose happiness. It wasn't the fitness or the fatness he's really choosing. What he cares about the most, and what his philosophy he's standing on is happiness is where you're saying health is always good. He's saying happiness is always good.
Mm-hmm. My next step in something like that is I would have a lot of questions. I would have questions as to why fatness makes you, this coming from a biased place. Why is gaining weight making you happy? And he's go, I'm not even going to go into what I think he would say. That's not even what I'm going to step into. And then I would also be like, why is it when you're fit, you're miserable? My goal there would be to practice something more unified, more balanced. He's practicing two extreme ends.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying that it's hedonistic. It's hedonistic to an extreme degree.
Yeah.
Which, live your life the way you want to live it. But I want you to stand on what
we're gonna say why. We're gonna ask why.
Why?
For sure.
And if it gets to him saying I don't know on like an important question, because of course you can say I don't know to things. But if it's an important question about the decisions you're making and you say, I don't know, or if you're trying to hold an ego about it, which is like, I'm just living my life how I want to live it. That's Patty.
Oh, okay.
But like, if he like gets to that, like he's like holding his eyebrow up and he's like, what's with these questions?
He's like, I like the taste of good food,
it's
so
like,
I'm eating the taste of good food all the time.
That's fine. That's fine. And if you don't feel like you owe me an explanation, that is fine. But I will keep that in mind. I will be like, okay, his decisions and his lifestyle, which is influential to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
He's preaching a philosophy, which is your right to do so. But
it's not convincing you.
If you're not able to sit there and tell me, and if you're like, well, I don't think everybody else should do it, this is just for me, I can respect that more.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you still can't defend it, if you can't sit here and give me like this is why I'm living my life the way I'm living it, then I don't see a reason to join your team. And
yeah. Okay, so can I be Patty? Because if I'm leaning either way, and I wouldn't even necessarily say that I'm like all the way like, okay, being healthy is the objective truth of the world or anything like that.
Right.
But like, if I'm leaning either way, it's toward health.
Right.
I don't want to be fat.
Right.
I don't
and
think.
Force feeding yourself oil and.
It wouldn't be force feeding.
Well,
I love food.
Fair. Would you gain like? I wish you could see what this guy.
If I didn't care about my
this
health,
guy's nuts.
If I didn't care about my health, and if I cared way more,
right in the cage.
Yeah, if I cared way more about being happy, at least in the moment. Like if I wanted to be the happiest version of Seth right now, I wouldn't care about how much ice cream I eat. I wouldn't care about how much junk food I eat because that shit would make me happy right now. It would taste good right now.
Right. It's a instant.
Mm-hmm.
Just grabbing dopamine by the masses.
So for today, that stuff would make me happy. But if I'm being him, if I'm like playing devil's advocate, arguing against David, and I'm saying like, okay, so you say health is an objective truth and that it's always good. There's never a time where health is bad. Is pain never bad? Or I'm sorry, is pain always
bad?
I'm sorry. Is pain bad or is pain always?
No.
So pain can be good.
Yes.
So the pain I feel at the gym.
Yes.
Every day when I go to the gym is a good pain.
It can be.
Why?
because it forces forces is a biased word for me. It subjects you to adversity.
Challenge.
It's a challenge.
Difficulty.
It's requiring more of you has to be lifted to complete the task.
Okay.
Which you can grow from that.
Your ability becomes more. So now I can
stronger.
Pick up heavier weight.
You can do more things. More manifestation is possible to you.
Okay. So because I don't want to feel pain later, like my joints won't hurt as much, or my body will be physically less encumbered by existing.
Mm-hmm.
Through working out, I should feel some pain. If the equation is pain plus time equals no pain, why is that equation better than no pain plus time equals pain?
Because if you never face pain, if you avoid pain at all times, it doesn't birth motivation. The only time motivation is birthed in those moments is when you're experiencing a lot of pain that you're not choosing to experience. And that's like a confrontation with your life and your decisions.
So like joint pain because you never worked out is not a pain you chose. It's a pain that's just now there.
Yeah, it's a pain that is by proxy.
Yeah.
It's a pain that is just the law of the universe.
Yeah.
It's like if I want to gain muscle, I have to hurt muscle. That's how it works.
Yeah.
I was thinking more of like if you're sleeping 13 hours a day, every day,
mm-hmm.
and your room is dark, and you're just letting yourself sleep, and you get up and you eat and you sleep again, and you get up and you go to the bathroom and you sleep again, there's a storm starting. There's a snowball effect happening in the backgrounds of your mind, in your unconscious. Your unconscious is recognizing what's happening at all times. It's looking at your behavior, what you're doing, and almost gauging you and comparing you to other people, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You are constantly being compared to others, even if you're not around other people. You are comparing your actions to a better or even worse version of yourself at all times, because that possibility is always there.
Mm-hmm.
And you repeatedly process and take in and see what these decisions are. And if these decisions are always turning off, if these decisions are always pursuing something, this is tough. If your decisions are always I want to say chasing a fix, but my philosophy is chasing a fix. So I don't want to use that terminology. You're chasing a void. You're chasing pleasure becomes a void if you're experiencing it constantly. Pain can be the same way. Pain can be a vat, an empty vat, if that's all you're experiencing all the time. Pleasure is the same way. And I do mean, when I say sleep, I mean pleasure. Even if it doesn't feel pleasurable at times. Bed sores.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, you're going to get
there's a lot.
Muscle pain and things from
that
too much.
Yes. The feeling of when you first wake up and it's dark in your room, you don't necessarily have to get up, but you're so comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't even have to piss. Even if you have to piss, you get back to bed, you get comfortable again. You're warm under those. It's pulling you. It's, the siren.
Getting up would be painful.
Yes, getting up is the thing that you're not wanting to do.
Yes.
So if every single time you're choosing that, you're essentially sinking into a goop. It's like it's quicksand. You're in something that isn't you. You're in a string of impulse that is suppressing and numbing a lot of your faculties. Because power, the only way to exercise any kind of power or will is through adversity. And so if you're never taking on that adversity, you're not pushing up against anything. You're just kind of falling into nothing. And I don't think that's a life that anybody wants to live.
What if somebody's being told every single day that they're sleeping all day is unhealthy, and they choose to sleep all day anyway, knowing that they're going to continuously be told that it's unhealthy?
Mm-hmm.
Are they facing adversity?
Of course, in that way, yes. If they're waking up and people are like, "Yo, you slept all day again?" and he's like, "Yeah, I did." If he's like, he has actions to defend.
And then it's like, what if you sleep all day for the first 40 years of your life, and you wake up when you're 40, and your body hurts all the time? Are you facing adversity?
Yes.
Is adversity ever avoidable?
No.
I think adversity is an objective truth of the world that we all will face.
I agree. And I think it's... So, I mean, if you want to break it down to that, they're facing adversity when they feel like they have to piss. It's like...
And they could just piss the bed.
They could totally do that, yeah. So they're facing adversity. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not no adversity, but it's... Now, here's the thing. The person that sleeps in all day like that, would they say, "Yeah, I did sleep in all day"? Would they do that? Or would they be like, "Yeah," and walk around like it's...
They still have to accept...
They do.
Being told every single day.
They do. But I'm analyzing the character there.
Yeah.
I'm like...
Well, it's like you're saying, so character is an objective truth.
Character is very, very important.
I would say character is very convincing for me.
Character is, I can't...
But now health relies on character being... being an objective truth.
Hold hands.
Fair.
I think health and character are like the same thing.
So health is an objective truth to you.
Yes.
So now you have to also defend character.
Which I think I could do.
Fair.
I think if you held a mirror up to that person that's sleeping 14 hours a day, here's another objective truth. Honesty. Honesty. I'm just stepping.
Yeah.
I'm like playing around in a playground right now, finding my ground.
Yeah.
Honesty. I think that if you held a mirror up to that sloped over sleeping 14-hour-a-day guy that can't even muster a strong stance on why he's doing it, he's just like, and he's just like wants everything to fall on his face so he can go back to his bed. I think if you held a mirror up to that man and he was able to look it in the eyes and be honest with himself, he would not like that. He would not want to be in that situation, and he would actively find a way to get out of it.
So the natural state of a human being is under no influence from anyone else. It's naturally a human being would reject seeing that, especially reject applying it to themselves.
I think unconsciously they would not want to see that, because if they looked it in the face and they persistently looked it in the face, the amount of something would start building.
Yeah.
Some anger, some anxiety,
something's
going to start building.
Yeah. Is someone living that lifestyle very likely to reproduce?
So is this the survival of the fittest argument?
Yes.
Where it's like, okay, just let them die out then.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying...
But objectively, like scientifically.
I'm saying scientifically, the reason that person laying there would look in the mirror and reject it is because instinctually we reject that which would not benefit us from an evolutionary standpoint.
Right. So you're saying
it's
that
programmed.
It's subject. That doesn't mean it's not a... So then the argument would be, can you dig that dead root out if it's a dead root?
Like, as in the person.
As in, like, I don't have to apply myself to my biology. My philosophy doesn't have to be the circumstance of the reason that I'm miserable right now is because I'm genetically not viable and can't reproduce. And that's scientifically why I'm upset about this. Can they just rip that dead root out of the ground and not have to compare themselves to science constantly? Or are we eternally going to be subjected to that, which in turn, at least subjectively, ironically, makes it an objective truth? humans have to live it out regardless if it's true or not.
This is such a deep and very complex and tough philosophical question.
There's no ultimate answers for this.
I think the universe has parameters and we can measure them. There's distance, there's time, there's speed, there's all these parameters, there's force. We can...
Space, time, energy, thought.
We can see the boundaries of what the universe has around us. We're in a specific environment from the moment we're born, and that environment is the known universe.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, it's the whole universe, whether we know of it or not.
Yeah.
We are in...
What humanity says we know of it, what we don't know of it, what
all
I
of it.
think I know of it.
We are objectively there. Even if it's only in a simulation or anything like that, we can still say, my consciousness is occupying this space. And this space has certain rules. Newton's laws are some of those rules, for example, and he's just describing them. And he's describing them with with imperfect senses and imperfect language and whatever. But either way, we have pretty close to a sure answer that when an object is in motion, it will stay in motion. That's a scientific law that
has been tested.
Isaac Newton came up with this. And when we try to put something in motion, we observe another force acting upon it every time if it stops. And we observe it not stopping if no force is acting on it. That's why the sun continues to hurtle through space at inconceivable speeds. It is conceivable, but I can't conceive them in this moment. And Earth follows along. We're just moving all the time because nothing's stopping us. The fucking planet is just hurtling through thousands and thousands of miles an hour through space. And we're just attached to this planet through gravity. And so gravity is a force acting on us. And we're moving until some other force might stop us. When we have to launch a rocket into space, it's not going from still to moving off the planet. So think of a rocket launch. And the rocket is on the planet. Dry erase board.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as long as you don't erase these questions.
I'm just going to draw a little picture right here.
As long as you have room, yes, draw a picture. Do you want me to just talk while you're doing this, or are you going to talk while you're doing it?
I'm just going to point a couple things out.
Oh, it's right here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're doing it while you're doing it, here.
Okay, thank you. We're going to bring this forward a little.
Oh, fair.
Dude, you're a mic stand right now?
I'm a mic stand right now, guys.
So,
DAYZ the mic stand.
And I don't know if you can see this, but if Earth is here and there's a rocket right here, and the rocket launches off of Earth, it's not still in this position. It's not just sitting still. When we walk up to it, standing next to it, and looking at it, we're not still, because Earth itself is moving. So when we launch a rocket off of Earth, the force that's coming out of the bottom of the rocket pushing against the planet, which is the rockets, the jets are pushing against the force of the planet that's pulling the rocket this way. The rocket is currently in motion going this way, and it needs to push an outside force against itself to get it to stop being so in motion. We're slowing it down. The rockets aren't speeding it up. The rockets are slowing it down. They're decelerating it so that it can fall off the planet. Does that make sense?
I'm keeping up somewhat. That's pretty good.
So
I don't know why it reminded me of how I work out, where it's like it's like a resistance, like
you're
pushing
holding it from coming
yes.
down. Yeah, you're like, but
do you mind?
Yeah. So the reason I say this is a lot of people try to dispute Newton's laws, but when we test them, even in this scenario, we can see how an object in motion is staying in motion with the planet because the planet's forces are just constant. And until we have a force that acts upon the rocket,
an opposing force,
it will continue in motion. But what we're doing is not even stopping it, because the emotion it's going through is so inconceivable. It's intergalactic. Our galaxy's moving.
Okay.
Our supercluster of galaxies.
Everything is always moving.
It's always just it's like
Constant
we're in a
motion.
gigantic pool of space and it's all just swirling. And we're just being pulled along in the gravity of it all.
Yeah.
When the sun moves, Earth is pulled along with it, and we are stuck to Earth, pulled along with Earth. And when the galaxy moves, the sun is pulled along with it. That's why the sun's moving. So it's inconceivable to even know how fast we're moving.
I'm going to just spit this out here. I think you can keep saying exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think this is great right now.
Yeah.
Is philosophy important? Why? We would not have this conversation right now.
Yeah.
If it wasn't how we take in philosophy. So then the question then becomes, is this an important conversation? And why?
So, it is philosophers and their studies that led toward seeking objective truths about the nature of the universe, this pool of whatever it is we're in. And we're trying to figure out, us and the philosophers are trying to figure out, what are these rules of the universe? Because if we want to know objective truth about the universe, we have to understand what rules the universe is putting on us. We want to know what those rules are and why. Why does an object in motion keep going? Why doesn't it just stop? That may be an unanswerable question.
But
why did the universe...
But why are these important questions?
I'm split on that question.
Split
because
on what?
There's some part of me that is like, I don't know. You're asking me why, and part of me is like, I don't know. Part of me is like, it's a biased question because why is philosophy important assumes that it is important.
Right.
And there is an answer in me that's like, maybe philosophy's not important.
Okay.
And we're just inflating it.
Okay. I have an answer, I guess, but I'll wait.
I would say philosophy is important in part because humans exist and have placed importance on it.
Okay. You could say that. Okay. Yeah, you could say about anything.
So objectively, it has been made important.
Right.
Thus it is important.
It is still a branch of knowledge that is very discussed.
Objectively, it is subjectively important to humans. You get
That's
what I'm
exactly what I said about what the fuck was it? About evolution?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we can objectively look at humans, which are a part of the universe, and say humans deem philosophy important. So objectively, it is important to humans.
Right. And then it's like, okay, I'm a human.
Yeah. So it's important to me.
Right.
I've lived my whole life feeling an importance, not just thinking it, but feeling an importance surrounding philosophy.
Yes. I think philosophy is important because philosophy dictates decision. And decision dictates behavior. And behavior dictates character.
Would you say character goes even further? It dictates outcome.
Character is input. Character becomes output.
Yes.
Character is the cause to your universe's effect.
Yes.
This is where the question of what can you control and what can you not control become important.
Mm-hmm.
This is where these questions are vital.
Mm-hmm.
Because if philosophy dictates decisions,
Mm-hmm.
then what that implies is, depending on your perspective, depending on what you think makes up what is good and bad, which you do think things are good and bad, even if you say I don't know, you are, whether you like it or not, making a decision on what you think is good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to say I don't know because I don't know. It's like, okay, sure, you decided that was good.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not. What do you think about that?
When I say I don't know, I don't. When I say I don't know, I don't like it.
Ooh.
I don't like when I don't know.
Would you agree that you've made a decision?
I think it's yes. I've made a decision that I don't know, is honest.
And also what you chose to say.
I chose the 3 words.
There's anything you could say.
Yeah.
If someone says, well, what do you think about Trump and Kamala? You say, oh, well, I don't know much about either of them. It's like, okay, so you're neutral.
What if you just genuinely don't know?
That's
and
fine.
You're being honest.
That's fine.
And maybe you want to have an opinion, but the honest truth.
Yeah.
So it's more that you've made a decision about honesty.
I agree. It's important. But then what becomes important is how long you continue to say, I don't know.
How long are you willing to not know?
Yes, and then because you're basing your behavior off that decision.
Yeah.
Of saying, I don't know. And it's like, you can decide that you don't know if God or science exists. You can decide that. But you have decided a life path, whether you want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
There is a decision that you have made.
You're deciding, because, well, okay.
Oh, you can hit this if you want.
Oh, there's a bowl. I was like, weed?
So humans are subjected to to decision, whether they like it or not. But by proxy of being a human being.
It's a rule of the state of the universe. It's like,
you have to make it. You are a verb.
Yeah.
You're always a verb. You're either sitting, you're either lying. Since you make up matter and space, you are a verb. You are doing something at all times. So you are making decisions at all times. Even when you're asleep, well, going to sleep was the decision.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't mean to.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like we were going into the fact that there's rules in the universe. One of them is that we make decisions. One of them is objects at rest will stay at rest, and objects in motion will stay in motion. So we can observe these rules of the universe to find some kinds of objective truths. And something else we can take from it is that it's almost as if the universe itself has a philosophy.
Which is where the idea of God becomes very big. It doesn't have to be a God. That's fine.
Right.
But there has to be a narrator.
There
has to be an inscriber. There has to be or a group of them.
There's a path.
Is it symbolic?
It's definitely symbolic.
The fact that it's definitely symbolic raises a lot of eyebrows.
But maybe symbolism only exists in like the mind of humans.
I'm not saying it's not, but psychoanalysis would be a science.
Yeah.
And if psychoanalysis is a science, the realm of what the universe could be would open tenfold,
right,
20-fold.
It's like whatever. Okay, we could talk about AI. It's like, why does AI know anything it knows?
Why does it refute being aware of this knowledge? Why, chat?
How did it find any of the knowledge out?
Right.
It's
just code, apparently.
Did it make a microscope and look at cells? Did it make a telescope and look at the stars? Did it ever actually look and test out what the universe is like and what are the rules of the universe?
Or is it going over the evidence itself?
It's that humans
yeah.
made a telescope and looked out at the stars and made a microscope and looked down at the cells and all we did was the humans gathered all of this information. I have looked through a telescope, but I didn't discover any of this stuff.
The moon, and what it actually was.
Right. But the thing is, it's so trustworthy because it's like millions of humans have vetted it. I know that the Hubble Space Telescope is in the sky because millions of people have vetted it. And we've looked at the images it's taken. And if I were to take a telescope and look into the sky, I could find a lot of the same things the Hubble Space Telescope has found. So it's verifiable. Something can only be scientific if it is verifiable.
Would you say tangible? Well, maybe not, because science, it says there is thought.
Yeah. I think science started with the tangible.
Yeah, the physical.
Because that's easier.
Yeah, we have to start with our body.
It's like working out. It's like
Yeah.
in order for science to handle the intangible, it first had to pick up the tangible. Intangible's heavier.
Mhm.
Intangible is more complex and difficult to study. And using logic, we can look at things without looking at them. It's like, have you ever done a Sudoku puzzle?
Mm-hmm.
You can know where a number is, even though it's only because of where the other numbers are.
It's like putting words together, even though they're misspelled, but the same first letter and last letter are right.
Yeah.
Your mind
You can
just,
fill in the blanks using
Yes.
logic, and it is a verifiably true answer. And we are able to look at the intangible through the tangible. We're able to find this number because these two numbers are here.
Where is the line for that, though?
How verifiable it is.
It's like psychoanalysis. Would you say it's verifiable? I will say this: ChatGPT psychoanalyzes.
Fair.
We need to name a segment for ChatGPT conversations.
Yeah.
Because they're incredible.
AI spies or something.
Yeah, that's great.
AI spy.
That's fine.
Like
AI
I Spy?
Yes.
Yeah.
AI spy's great. Yeah, names, we got that down.
Yeah, we're good at that.
But I'll send it my writing, or I'll send it a sequence of questioning, or I'll send it things about myself, and it's gathering information about me, and it's reframing its text to cater to how I talk and the things that I relate with and all that. And then I'll ask it in the middle of this dialogue. I'll be like, I'll say, so from what you've heard about me, what would you say about who do you think I am as a person? And it'll give me an answer. Is it 100%? Definitely not.
Right.
But it's going off what I'm saying, and it's guessing how, and I'll get very detailed with it. I'll ask it, how do you think I carry myself in public?
Yeah.
You can just ask ChatGPT that.
Yeah.
You can just ask that.
And it'll answer.
Yeah, I'll ask it right now.
Yeah.
I will. Here. You know what? I'll do this. Check this out. Now, to be fair, if I'm being very fair, this dialogue with ChatGPT is. Can you write AI spy?
Mm-hmm.
This dialogue with ChatGPT that I've gotten to already is very detailed. I've had lengthy conversations with this dude, Germ. So I'm gonna ask, how do you think I would speak in front of a camera in a podcast setting? How do you think I would speak in front of a camera in a podcast setting? It's going to take a sec. Based on everything we've discussed, I imagine you speaking in front of a camera in a podcast setting with a blend of intensity and thoughtfulness. You would likely come across as introspective and articulate. Obviously, this ChatGPT is telling me what I want to hear. That's something ChatGPT is guilty of.
Yeah.
Because it's like your best friend psychoanalyzing you. It's like, you're just so great.
Yeah. Like, would it say this stuff to everybody?
Probably not, but it also knows a lot about me. So I think there's some truth to it, but is it gonna also tell me how I think I would be lacking? Maybe I should ask it that.
Like, if I was asking ChatGPT all the time, if I was asking questions like, my best friend cheated on his girlfriend, what should I do?
Yeah. Well, you should really take time to talk with your friend, and you should really sit with yourself and think about this.
Now, let's say I asked it 1,000 questions like that, and then I asked it, how would I hold myself or present myself on a podcast?
Right. I'm going to ask, what do you think some of my weaknesses would be?
Yeah. It's like, is it going to tell me, that same person, is it going to be like, you'd be very insightful and thoughtful? Or is it going to be, you would probably focus on your friends and your
connection with them.
Your very emotional based things.
Overthinking or hesitation.
Okay.
Might be one of my weaknesses. Going too deep might be one of my. Well, good thing this it revolves around this.
So AI spy. What should we write under this?
Psychoanalysis. Fucking AI psychoanalysis.
Okay, so.
AI psychoanalysis. Intensity. I might be too intense. Navigating ambiguity, balance between listening and speaking. Hold on, let's see. Which one do you think relates to me the most? Which one am I guilty of the most? Overthinking or hesitation, going too deep, intensity, navigating ambiguity, or balance between listening and speaking. Which one of these would you say is my biggest weakness?
Navigating ambiguity.
You may struggle when conversations veer into more ambiguous.
Ambiguous.
Ambiguous. Dude, I'm a fucker right now.
You're like wanting to put the stress on the
Ambiguous.
you because the ambiguity
Right.
stresses the
True.
you. It's stressing the I. Ambiguous.
True. Or gray area, subjects where concrete answers are elusive. This could lead to frustration or a tendency to become repetitive while searching for clarity. Now, do you agree with that? I agree with it at times.
Can I read it?
Yeah. I fucked up the fucking
No, you're good.
ambiguity.
And show when conversations veer into more ambiguous or gray area subjects where concrete answers are elusive. This could lead to frustration or a tendency to become repetitive while searching for clarity.
I definitely am guilty of that at times.
It's like when I'm like, it's a paradox.
And I'm like, no.
You're like,
no.
no, there's a yin and a yang here. And
Yeah.
It's not a paradox.
Yeah, I would say this is where I think doing that in the past would frustrate me.
Yeah.
Like, not even just the situation itself, but just the fact where it's like, why do I let myself get incessant instead of searching for the answers myself or taking the answer that was given because I just don't know? And being like, okay, well, that's your perspective. Okay. And that's where I start building things for myself, like health is always better than illness. Because what that's doing for me is it's giving me a light pole, essentially. It's giving me a beam of light in the distance to be like, okay, I'm recognizing a path here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing a path in myself that's real, that I'm genuinely trying to find arguments for.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to hold, I want it to stand tall.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy.
You've recognized a pattern.
Mm.
A pattern in people.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who believe one thing and the people who believe another thing and the difference between them. And a pattern that has emerged in your mind about them. And you don't want to fit one side of that pattern. But you're finding yourself fitting a different side. You're finding yourself fitting, like you said, you don't see yourself being like, God is real and this is the God I believe in and this is the whole truth. And you see yourself being more likely to be like, okay, science is true, but as a scientist, why the fuck are the scientists unhealthy?
Isn't that the most ironic thing? And I do not know every scientist on the planet. But please bring me a fit. I want an if I can have whatever variable I want, atheistic scientist. I want someone that stands on atheism to a utmost point. Someone who can defend as much about why they think that they're an atheist to the furthest degree. But you have to be fit. And that seems to exclude 80% of you.
I want to hear you saying you believe in health because science tells us to believe in health. I want to hear you saying you believe in fitness and virtue.
Right.
Because science supports virtue.
Right. It's like I see these scientists, especially to the extreme degree, like Professor Dave Explains, who we've given him 2 shout-outs now.
Yeah.
And it's not a full shout-out because what I'm doing is I'm critiquing, in a way. He's talking about the science of ethics and the science of health and all these things. He doesn't strike me as the most fit person. He might be the most fit of the ones that I can think of, but he's kind of pudgy in areas and not showing off, like, I don't know. But, no, I do know. I meant that. But, what was the other thing about him? Oh, his behavior towards other people. He says science of ethics, but then he also practices attacking the person just as much as their ideas. The person holds just as much weight to him in criticizing as the ideas of this person. It's like, okay,
and he's willing to try to discount an idea simply because of the person saying it.
Right. As soon as this person says something unscientific or that he can just be like, no, you're wrong, he immediately puts them in this box of below.
And
that he
everything they say goes in that box with them.
And yes, no matter what it is. And even if they make a good point, he will be like, even though the statement is true, that doesn't take away from the fact that you also said, like, he's very willing to disqualify.
Right.
Very quick to rip them down.
And it's like, okay.
It's like, you're a scientist and you're trying to influence the people and I'm learning from you, but dude.
Yeah.
I have a very philosophical thing for you to answer.
Okay.
But I want to hear what you just had to say.
Just that he's putting an emphasis on the person rather than the truth.
Yes.
And yet...
Which is what I'm doing.
Yeah. But it's like, and that's not what he stands on when he says, when he supports his own ideas, it almost goes against the thought of even attacking the person over the idea.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, I'm watching his course on psychology right now, and I'm starting, now that I've talked about his behavior to both of you, and I'm taking it more in, he's very nuanced with his bias. His bias comes in through the cracks. You have to really pay attention to see his bias. And I'll give you an example. There's this psychological test, because he's talking about psychology and the behavior and the experimenting of behavior. Imagine an experimenter. Imagine the person who is being tested. The person experimenting on them. Imagine a glass frame and a victim. So imagine there's a shock wave. And as the shock needle goes up, they get more and more, the degree of pain enhances. The person being shocked is acting. It's the same level the whole time. There's no increase of voltage.
Is there any voltage at all?
I think it's like maybe subtle, if any, just so he can know when he's actually pressing the button, so he can give a reaction.
Yeah.
And it's the job of the person being experimented on, the experimentee. Is that what it is?
The subject. The
subject, thank you. To keep pressing the button. And the experimenter, and this person is progressively crying out in agony, like begging them to stop. And the experimenter is saying, keep going. No, keep going. And what he said, he slipped this in there, and he was like, now, is the subject evil for doing this? Of course not. He was just listening to what the experiment... I disagree.
Have you heard of the Milgram experiment?
Okay.
It's exactly that.
And it's them just going because they're told to go.
They tested how many people...
It was 100%, according to...
It's not 100%.
The test that was doing, every single one of them got up to the caution level of voltage before they stopped.
Dr. Milgram...
That's what Professor Dave explains.
Dr. Milgram, number one, some people call into question the accuracy of his notes.
Okay.
But he was trying to prove psychological acquiescence, which is the tendency for the majority of human beings to submit to authority. So the person who was testing the subject was wearing a lab coat, and they just invited people from the public and offered to pay them to help them with an experiment. And they had this person in the other room screaming when they were being electrocuted, and they would ask them questions, and the questions were very illogical. It was like, remember these 3 words in this sequence: tree, apple, dog. And then the person would have to read them back: tree, apple, dog, and they would get it wrong on purpose. And the person would have to turn up the dial, press the button. And they were trying to see how far the people would go. Almost everyone did it at least a couple. Some people left early.
I probably would do it a couple.
80% of people went past the threshold of what was saying it was lethal.
It could kill them.
And there were several notches. And eventually I can't remember the percentage, but some percentage of the people would go past the point where the person would just stop screaming. And they would be like, he stopped screaming. And they'd be like, just keep pressing the button. Just continue with the experiment. And some percentage of people would just keep going, even though the guy stopped screaming. Wasn't giving any answers, was automatically getting wrong. And they would just press the button, and then they would get the paycheck and walk out.
Okay, now if I had to imagine myself in that scenario,
Mm-hmm.
it would be, especially, this is a powerful, with psychoanalysis can be very, very powerful. Even if it was an act, if I could visibly see the degree of torment in them rise, if they were like just screaming out, like stop, like very genuinely,
It
would feel like someone was putting a knife in my neck. I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
are
yeah.
you serious?
And they'd be like,
no.
sit down.
No.
Continue with the experiment.
You press it. All
Sit
right.
down
Damn.
right now.
That's just as evil for me to
Sit
say.
down right now.
No.
You would just say no.
I can't.
Most people would just sit down.
And now this is a Freudian connection, but very subtle. When I was told by my parents or whatever, you can't go to bed until you finish eating, I wouldn't eat it. I would just sit there.
Okay, yeah.
I'd be like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not eating it. I would be like, it's cold now. No, I'm not
So
doing that.
what Milgram was trying to prove is that there's a certain percentage of the population that is acquiescent, and there's a certain percent of the population that is not. And it's like, I can't remember the word he used, but they don't conform to others' requests. They don't just follow authority because they detect a level of authority from them. The lab coat and the glasses and the clipboard making him seem really official. A lot of people just, oh, well, he's official. He's the one in charge here. I'm not going to get in trouble. He is. I was just a participant. I was not the one that designed this experiment. And then people who were put through this experiment were mad at Milgram. They were like, you got me to do something horrible. And he's like, you didn't actually shock anyone. And they're like, yeah, but you got me to think I was doing something horrible, and I just did it.
Well, why'd you do it?
And they're mad at him.
Why'd you do it?
And it's like, part of what this test was partially carried out as a result of the Holocaust.
That makes sense.
And the soldiers who were just told, go shoot them by the guy in authority. And so the soldiers just did it.
And I can empathize with that. It was just that specific experiment.
Yeah.
That really was like, okay, these people are not evil. Are you so sure about that?
The results of that experiment, if I'm being honest, pissed me off.
Okay, great. Same. It's like, and then him saying that, he slid that in there. He was like, does this mean the subject is at all evil? And he let it pause. He dropped it. Of course not. He was just listening to it's like, oh, okay, Professor Dave, what would you do if the authorities were just telling you that's what would you start to do?
This is
that's what atheism does,
yeah.
huh? Okay,
it's
great.
like this is the people who say that getting shot.
That's not all atheism.
Police brutality
is
is justified. Police brutality is justified all the time by people saying you should just comply. If you just complied, you'd be fine. If you just weren't breaking the law, you'd be fine. It's
not real.
Illogical.
It's not real.
That's illogical. And yeah, it shows that if we're psychoanalyzing the people in those situations, it shows that they're more afraid of other people than they are of being immoral.
A certain amount of bravery is required to do it.
Yes.
Like either one, you're in a moral dilemma. You're like, okay, someone's barking at me to press this button, but this button might kill him. It's like you're in a dilemma.
Yeah.
Like you can't just turn off and be like, he keeps saying. Like, I know it's easy to do that. I know that the Holocaust had to have its workers.
Yeah.
For it to work, and there was a lot of them. I
Yeah.
understand that people are very susceptible to these things. I'm not trying to even say that it's impossible for that to happen to me. But when I think about that exact example,
if somebody held a gun to my head,
now this is where it gets more tricky.
and it's either I die or I kill them,
This is really tricky.
I think the number one,
This is
if we
a
tested
real-
that,
is a
the numbers would
moral-
stretch almost all the way to
Yes.
100% of people would
Yes.
press the
It'd
button.
be a very different experiment to me if that was the case.
Yeah.
It'd be very different to me. But it wasn't. And even
But
if
I
oh, sorry.
might not press the button. I might
Yeah.
call their
I
bluff.
would love to say that I wouldn't press the button.
I-
That's a great version of David.
I at least believe that is, it's like,
I am a great version of me. So
we're looking at the grand scheme of things and the way the fundamental aspects of nature, the objective truth of the world. And the objective truth of the world is that humans have been put in scenarios like that.
Yes.
The nature of the universe led to humans existing and putting each other into those scenarios.
It's like a kid had to grow up with parents that maybe owned slaves
Mm-hmm.
and had to ask the parents a lot of questions, like, why do we have slaves? Like,
Yeah.
And like maybe you never thought that was okay, but there was a level of bravery where if you let the slaves just go, you might get beaten that night.
Yeah.
Like, you have to confront bravery to make a moral decision.
So the universe, in order to the nature of the universe is that bravery exists.
Mm-hmm.
Because the universe led toward a situation where bravery was even possible. Where my life is threatened, but the lives of others are also threatened. And now the option even exists for me to pick their life over mine.
Do you think this is why people choose ignorance in certain situations?
Possibly.
Because they don't have to face as many moral dilemmas.
But the moral dilemmas are still there.
They're there, but they don't have to be analyzed as much.
Right.
They don't have to
They're
be...
ignoring them.
Yes.
But the what I'm getting across is that the universe, bravery exists because the universe, we didn't invent it. It is presented to us. It's an objective truth of the world that the average person believes in bravery.
Mm-hmm.
Even someone who's not brave still sees bravery as right.
They're influenced by bravery. They're inspired by bravery. Bravery does something.
The universe is this weird place where we're
weight.
we're presented with these challenges. We didn't make up bravery. We experience it.
And then we just created a name for this thing that was already happening.
It's a thing that's happening in the universe. So the universe has got a philosophy in a way.
Which is crazy to
and the
think about.
universe rewards bravery. The universe and us, we are part of the universe. We believe in bravery. The universe puts a tick next to bravery that is like, this is
impactful.
This is yang.
It's a cause to a reaction or effect, or an effect to a cause from a cause.
Yeah, and it's like
very big one.
So at the end of the day, we can detect an objective truth about the universe in that bravery is morally right. Why? Because when we are subjected to the state of the universe as it is, we are presented with the option to be brave or not. And all of us, we're these, it's like, I was talking about AI, and it knows everything it knows because we observe the universe and we detected patterns. We recognize patterns. That's what we do. And the pattern that we've all seen is that bravery's good. We see it. A child can tell that bravery's good.
There's more, you get more benefit from it.
Yeah.
There's more reward from being brave.
Yeah.
Which is more of a scientific look at it.
Yeah.
But there's benefits to performing a brave act.
Yeah.
So it's beneficial to you, and it's good.
Yeah. The universe we live in, bravery is moral. Objectively.
I would agree.
Even if God didn't make this universe, the universe itself set about.
It's like a hierarchy. It puts you above.
Yeah. I mean, it's evolution.
Yeah. Bravery puts you in the top echelon.
The rules of the universe dictate whether it was God or whether it was just calamity.
Okay, I agree with you. This is where philosophy gets really important and interesting because, wait, what is the thing? What did you just say?
Whether it's God, the universe dictates.
The universe dictates.
Yes. Whether it's randomness.
Yes.
Or whether it's God, the universe is dictating certain things.
So if the universe has a philosophy and it dictates, let's put character into that equation.
Right.
And the importance
of the universe,
of character.
a person.
Right, but also to relate your character to it.
Mm.
If it's communicating something and you're not playing by its rule set,
right,
your character will be a miscalculated character.
It's
on the wrong trajectory. It's not in harmony with the universe.
Right.
You're not in the same notes. You're not You're not bouncing off of it in the right melodies.
You're giving the option that the universe dictates.
You
You should choose this,
or it's
and
too
you're
much.
choosing something the universe didn't dictate. You're choosing a lie. You're choosing darkness.
And it's sad too because that means that the universe has a standard. It's almost like you have to be this good to make it, and it's like that forces it puts you under an obligation, which I'm fine with.
The biggest reason for that is because we're all here, and if you're not going to make it because somebody else that did choose the things that are more in harmony with the universe is going to make it.
Right.
And both of you have to eat, but who's going to get to? The person who is in harmony with the universe.
Both of you want to reproduce, but who's
Right.
going to get to?
The person who is in harmony most with the universe is the person who will reproduce. And then evolution is a natural cause and effect of that.
And people can get really resentful towards that because then they're like, okay, this isn't my decision. This is just my biology, so I'm going to go against it to prove that I have a free will. A lot of people get very stubborn about those things.
Well, how many people?
I think of people like what percentage of atheists?
What
science?
percentage of people are offended by the universe's dictates?
Probably not that many, to be honest. If I had to put
I think a lot of people are very uncomfortable with what the universe expects.
I'm thinking of like right now. Because of this outbreak in science and just like the gender and sex thing being different, it's like they don't want to operate by the rules that life has. They want to stand for something
butting
else.
up against what the universe has dictated.
Which is why that realm, the LGBTQ realm, is confusing to me. So I would love for someone to enlighten me.
I'm trying to make it. I want to try to make it make a little bit of sense right now, at least.
Okay.
And
I think it's a stubborn denial. That's how I understand it.
The universe is dictating it.
Right, in a way, yes, that's right. It still is happening.
Right. So there is some kind of truth in it.
Sure.
And
I don't know how much.
Maybe it may just simply be there because it's so important to question the universe and what it dictates. They're in a way Socrates.
They're like questioning, like, why did we get here? What are these traditional values? Why are we still following these? Let's try something else. Sure.
They're recognizing a pattern.
Sure. When it comes to that, I agree. Now, this is going to be an extreme example, but I have a point here. It reminds me of the liberal arts school where they had a poster that said, yada, 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 abortion is great. Change my mind.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, now, did they expect some dude with a camera and a mic to show up?
And a Make America Great hat.
Yeah, it's like, did they know that that's what they were inviting? Maybe not. But they certainly have a sign that is fairly open to any invite.
Mm-hmm.
So they should be able to stand on that. And if they can't, I'm going to be skeptical. And he/she/whoever refused to talk. They held the mic. Your sign literally says, I'm trying to change your mind. Like, let's hear it.
Okay.
Just refusal to speak. So that's an extreme end where I start to tap out. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous.
I'm trying to rationalize it. So the person with the shirt on that says abortion's great, change my mind, or a sign. Yeah.
They were holding a sign.
Whatever. Yeah.
Shaking it in the air.
They recognize a pattern, and the pattern is that when they support the ideas of the people around them, they are praised.
Facts.
Is praise beneficial?
Did we not talk about this on the last episode where people care more about the props of the person than the validity of the person?
So is someone more likely to reproduce because they have done things that have earned them a high level of praise from others?
Yes.
So is it almost that they've found an objective truth?
As into behaviorism, sure.
Yeah. And then somebody's coming in and giving them the opposite. And they're like, yo, I'm holding up this sign so that I can reproduce later. And you're fucking it up. You're getting in my way.
Okay. I'm making claims today. This person's guilty.
Fair.
This person is guilty.
Fair.
This person shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Especially to the degree that they're doing it.
Yeah.
They are willing to invoke violence to hold this position.
Yes.
This is the extreme versions. Maybe this person didn't. But there are people where that happens. They get so shaken up by like, I'm trying to fit in and be different and special, and all these people keep telling me that, and if you really keep being here talking, you're going to fuck that up. And it's like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's not real. Stop doing it. You're doing something that's not real, and you're hurting you and everyone around you. This is not at all of you. This is on the extreme versions, and there are extreme versions on the opposite side as well. There are conservatives that get very violent.
Do you think you're butting up against something the universe has dictated?
Like disagreeing?
You are very dissatisfied with the fact that the universe has made praise
To ego?
a universal truth.
It's ego. It's how we use and understand ego. Because I think no one... Dude.
Something about...
I have a statistic that will feed right into this as soon as you're done.
Something about behaving in a praiseworthy way, no matter how character-driven it is. Something about it is true or good.
I would agree.
Or leads to...
Upholding a standard, upholding
Yeah.
an image that everyone has seen you as. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
And it's like... These people are just following what the universe has dictated for them. And it's working.
For now.
True.
I hear you. I think they will look at these moments in great regret. I think
Fair.
they will eat them alive.
Fair.
I think they need to look at what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think if you can't look a mic in the face and defend what you're doing, especially when you're doing something like that, then you're the problem.
I mean, it's like they should at least be able to be like, yo,
this is why.
I'm doing this because I want to find a wife.
And they would lose their position for saying that.
Yeah.
This is the paradox of that position.
Yeah.
They have cornered themselves.
They're not going to
Dude.
get a wife that way.
There is. Dude, I love that we're talking about this. There was a statistic, and Professor Dave explains. And the way that he looks at it is unpsychoanalytical, and it makes sense. He said, he was reading statistics about how people look at themselves. And he was like, this is a catastrophic percentage. He was like, 91% of people in higher level positions believe that their work is above average than what it actually is. 91% of people in higher positions think they have the work one is my favorite probably, that their work is higher than what it actually is, or their status is higher than it actually is, or they talk higher of themselves than what may be the case. And they will reframe failures on themselves as something that was not their fault.
This sounds like Donald Trump.
And it's like, now why do they do that? That's the first question I ask. And I'd say, because no one wants to be talked to like they're stupid. Because no one wants to be questioned in their position that they had to fight so hard to earn.
Their position depends on the opinion of others, and they are trying to keep others in a good opinion of them.
The only way that they can defend this person is if they uphold this image that got them on board to
Right.
begin with.
It's like Donald Trump loses the election, and he says it was rigged. Because if he says it's rigged, there's going to be a lot of people who are like, oh,
That's why it's not his fault.
I'm still going to support him then.
Yes.
And not all of a sudden jump to the other side.
Right.
So it's like his position depends on how well he can win the crowd.
Right. A crowd appeal is huge in that
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah.
And that really fucked with me because it's like, okay, the most difficult thing about people being honest with themselves that I'm aware of is that they have to fight and uphold any position in a hierarchical system. The only way that they can even get to a different echelon of people taking them more seriously when they speak or just being taken as a credible individual is to uphold if you've made a groundwork that you don't make mistakes, as soon as you make a mistake, the validity of all of you is into question. If you say you're perfect and something imperfect happens, this is why God is held to such a high esteem. Is because God is seen as all good and all powerful and perfect and whole. So if there's even one hole in that operation, all of it falls apart. So of course people, 91%, think that they're more average than they are. Because to even admit them in this cell Even to admit this in themselves might lose them that position entirely, and climbing back up might be way more difficult because now the crowd is against you for doing such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it corners humans. It corners them.
So it would be really brave. And we all can agree that bravery is objectively good. However,
We're
if
building
someone,
a lot of groundwork here.
yes, so then why is it that when someone is brave enough to do the thing that is honest but loses them the crowd, why can't we look at their bravery for doing it and at least some of the crowd stick around? Why? And it would. I think if Donald Trump,
There would be some sticking around, I'm sure.
can you imagine if Donald Trump went out on stage and he said, guys,
It's all a lie.
he would have to say it in a very specific way.
Right. Of course, you would never say that.
You know, it's like somebody else
I was
needs
lying
to
the whole
probably
time.
write the speech, but it's like he's got to say, I recognize the error of my ways, and he's got to say,
This is
I
not-
was putting on a front, and he's got to say, I was doing it to win the crowd, and he's got to say, I wanted to help the world, but I knew I needed people on my side, and he's got to say, I lied to get people on my side so that I could change the world the way I wanted to, despite what they wanted. And he's got to say, but I've seen the error of my ways. And he's got to say, and I still want to change the world, but I want to do it the right way. And he's got to say, I need you on my side, even though I'm going against what I said before. And he's got to say, if I have you on my side, we can change the world together, but I'm going to be honest from now on. And then he's going to win the minds and the crowd of a whole different people.
But think about this. Think about the yin and yang that creates. What it does is, let's say 30% of people stick around.
Yeah.
30?
Yeah.
The 70% that were on his team are going to look at these 30% as idiots. They had to make a big decision right there.
Yeah.
So they're going to be like, you follow the liar? The dude that you followed, so now they have to.
He admitted it. He's a liar.
And now they're put in a conundrum. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that. I'm not saying that it would be impossible. I'm not saying that he couldn't win the election with that 30. Well, you know what I mean. They couldn't regain people back. Be like, oh, this dude is legit. Okay, let's retrain. I'm not saying that couldn't happen, but there would be a conundrum. There would be a situation where a group of people, if they continued following this liar, this self-professed flip-flopper, dude that you were following the whole time he was lying, he admitted it to you and you're still following him. It's like they're now in that position.
Yeah.
So that humanity makes it almost impossible. They make it as difficult as it can be for honesty to prevail.
Yeah. But think about this. Since Donald Trump became he's been influential for a long time, but since he became a presidential candidate, a world leader, I've disagreed with the crowd on him for most of that time. Because I think he believes a lot of what he says, but I also can almost tell that it's a front.
He's more concerned about getting the laugh track.
I can see he's just trying to win the crowd.
Or at least it's very concerning.
And it's
to him.
working.
Oh, yeah, he's great at it.
So it's like it makes me
He's charismatic.
frustrated with him.
He's great at it. He's
Yeah.
charismatic.
Yeah. Matter of fact.
Yeah. That's right.
So he's more concerned with winning the crowd than he is with what he actually believes. Although I will say he does believe
I
some
don't know
things
enough
at
about
least.
Trump to fully agree with that, but I do know that is some of that, a lot of that, from what I've seen of his character, rings true.
If he came forward and said all that stuff I said,
How would you think about him?
I would respect him 10 times as much as I respect him now.
If he changed, what would he absolutely have to change after saying that for you to?
He'd have to be honest.
Well, about everything.
Even if I disagree with him.
Would you give him your vote?
It depends.
Okay.
I would say I'm more likely to. But he would have to be standing on more of his truth, but the truth. He couldn't just be trying to win the crowd. He would have to be principled. And even if I disagreed with him on some things, if he was if he was by principle supporting a lot of things that I by principle support, then he represents me.
Which is what the election is supposed to be.
That's what our government's supposed to be.
That's what it's supposed to be.
And if I'm voting for anyone, that means I'm agreeing to what the government says it is. So if I vote for Kamala Harris, if I vote for fucking, what's that guy's name? Fucking
not Joe Biden.
Val Kilmer, I don't know.
RFK?
No.
RFK jumped out.
Either way.
He endorsed Trump.
There's a guy that runs every
Everybody's
year.
endorsing Trump right now. Fucking Joe Biden put on a Make America Great Again hat.
There's a guy that runs every election cycle, and
Trump.
he never wins, but he continues to try to win, and I can't remember his name. Ralph Nader? I think it's Ralph Nader.
I have no clue.
He runs in... Anyway.
Not a clue, really. Not sure. Never heard that one.
As far as Donald Trump, no matter who I vote for, I'm agreeing to them representing me.
Yeah.
If I don't cast a vote, then I'm saying I don't agree that any of these people represent me. And that's where maybe if someone doesn't cast a vote, then they should get a different kind of vote, like a veto power or something like that. Because all the people who didn't vote for Donald Trump, why does he get to represent them? It doesn't make sense. But either way, if I voted for Trump, it better be because his principles reflect mine.
Mm-hmm.
At least to a pretty high degree.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say I expect perfect, but I would say I expect to vote for someone that reflects my principles. And it's like I expect other people to vote for someone who reflects their principles, even if they're not the same as mine. And most people, I think, do vote as closely to their principles as they can, but also they follow the crowd.
Dude, I think that's perfect for this. What have you learned from philosophy?
I've learned my principles. Or
priorities?
Yeah. I've learned what kind of life I would want to live. I've learned that I care about the effects of my actions and that there's a certain way to conduct myself to get the results I want.
Can you be more specific?
Health is a great example. I have learned that there is a certain way to be healthy, and I have learned that I want to be healthy. I've learned about the results of being healthy, and I've learned that truly being the person that I am authentically, I would choose healthy choices. My philosophy supports choosing healthy choices. So now, because I learned to care about my choices, because I learned that I care through philosophy, that I care about how I affect myself and the people around me and the world around me, I'm choosing things like health, like a good diet and a good amount of sleep and routine and pursuing
a goal,
higher goals.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm choosing those things because of my philosophy that my decisions matter.
Mm-hmm.
Some people's philosophies may say their decisions don't matter,
which is still a decision. That's the paradox.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Matter of fact.
No, we both did it.
Bro, that's got to be our thing.
Yeah.
Matter of fact.
As a matter of fact, it is our thing.
I fucking love that, bro. That's great. That's marketing.
Yeah.
We're going to be the Coca-Cola of whatever this is.
Yeah, we're the podcast
We're
pros.
the Apple of this. We're Steve Jobs and fucking...
I'm a pro podcaster.
Yeah. Doing the podcast on Sunday.
I believe in being principled.
Not today.
I believe in being principled.
Yeah.
And so then I seek my principles. I don't know all of them, but I seek my principles so that I can test them and follow them.
Right. Philosophy has taught me the importance of questioning. Philosophy has taught me higher levels of empathy. Philosophy has taught me a lot about studying the fundamental aspects of nature, like time. Philosophy helps me better understand things like time and space. And these may seem like trivial things. And in the grand scheme of things, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
It's like I remember one time, and this is like age old. Everybody, we've all heard something like this about philosophy. But I remember somebody that I used to work with. I brought up philosophy. He was like, "Yeah, I started going to college for a philosophy degree, but then I realized that I wouldn't be able to get a job with it, so I just got out of it." And he was just making this rhetoric.
Rhetorical?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Rhetorical statement about philosophy being
useless.
Pretty much useless.
Yeah.
If you can't
make money with it.
If you can't tangibly grab it and shake it around, then why would you even do it?
What job would you get as a philosopher? And it's like, I think any job you get should be because you're a philosopher. Why do you have a job?
Right.
What is your it's like a philosophy degree, while it may not offer you a lot of career positions specifically, it affects any career you choose.
It affects your quality of life.
It's like understanding philosophy can help you understand why you even want a job, why you should be selective about what job you have. It's even the asking, why do I want a job, is a philosophical question.
That you're subjected to whether you want, the masses are subjected to it whether they like it or not.
I think based on my philosophy, that importance as a concept
It's 11:11.
exists. Some people don't think certain things are important. Some people don't. It's like nihilism would say nothing's important. I believe importance exists.
I believe importance exists as well. I believe priorities are essential.
How do you prioritize?
Prioritize is a value assessment.
Yeah.
It's deciding what is valuable to you. And value is what is useful. Useful is the best word. Useful or
meaningful.
Meaningful is great. It's your muse. Your priorities are what your behavior is based off of. The reason that you're doing anything, especially look very deeply into things, not only the things that you rarely do, but the things that you have always done.
The things that are important to you.
Yes. How much you sleep is a dictation of your priorities. How clean your house is dictates your priorities.
Mm-hmm.
How you dress yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This is coming back to the what you can control and what you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
You as a human being cannot control that you have priorities. You can't control that.
So
you have priorities, whether you like it or not.
I think it's like priorities, I would describe it. Priorities are a timeline that you can calculate based on a formula. And the formula,
it's like an average.
Yeah. It's an equation that comes from urgency plus importance.
Is priorities?
Your priorities are a value.
Urgency plus importance. Divided by.
But you put them on a timeline. And the thing that
divided by patience?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Patience is a virtue. As a matter of fact.
That's a matter of fact.
Yeah. But so here's how the formula works. You take an action and you put it through the formula. How important is this action plus how urgent is this action equals how much you prioritize this action, and then you put it on your timeline of actions you're going to take through the course of your life, and the closer it is to the front, the more urgent and important it is. And you put other actions behind it in the timeline.
I would agree. Priorities is you have to have a recognition of time.
Yes.
To have a recognition of your priorities.
If you were to
have
take
a recognition of anything,
every action you could optionally ever take and put it on this timeline, the timeline wouldn't fit at all. There's some things that if your timeline is 75 years and you added up all those things, it would take millions of years.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're deciding what your life is going to look like, prioritizing means taking all the things that are the most urgent and important to you and putting them right at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Because you only got 75 years. 75 years is just the cusp of a million years. So 99.9% of the actions you optionally could take, you will never take.
Right.
You are picking.
You're very bound.
0.0001% of your possible options, and you're fitting as many of them into 75 years as you can.
Right.
So prioritizing is making that tiny 0.01% as close to what is as important and urgent to you as possible. And I'll give examples of importance and urgency.
Mm-hmm. This is a concept that you love. You've been talking about this for months.
Prioritizing is what's bringing this to my mind.
Mm.
So in order to prioritize my time and to select what I'm going to do now versus what I'm going to put off until later, and sometimes later being never.
Right. That's part of the 0.01%.
Yes.
0.001%.
It's by analyzing how much importance and how much urgency there is. Importance is based on me and maybe sometimes other people.
If you're influenced.
Urgency.
Ultimately, it comes down to you.
Yeah. Urgency is a lot of times outside of my control, but it's just a value that is represented in the action itself. So if I got an email and it said, act now, in the next hour, you could buy a swing set.
Get it half off.
For a penny.
Oh, okay.
I mean, holy shit, that's ultimately urgent. I have an hour.
Yeah, you're bound to your priorities shift depending on how
what if
that
it was
affects
5
you.
minutes? It's like as urgent as you can think it is. I have 2 seconds to respond. That is urgency.
Yes.
Or I don't get to do it ever again.
Yeah.
It goes into the list of never.
Yes.
So that's what drives impulsivity. Not every impulsive action is bad or the wrong action. Mm-hmm. It's just that sometimes you're presented with a decision that you only have a couple seconds to decide on. You have a few minutes. Are you going to defend yourself? It's like, what is it that's presented to you that's so immediate you only have now to decide? That is urgency. And then there's importance. A swing set is not important to me. I don't need a swing set.
That's a different list of priorities.
Yeah.
That's cool.
If I buy that swing set for a penny, it's probably not for myself. I'm probably going to give it as a gift, whatever.
I don't even have the room.
It's not so important.
Yeah.
So what's something that's extremely important?
Health.
That has no urgency.
None?
Yeah. It's as unurgent as
a parked car? A parked car when you have nowhere to be?
Yeah. It's like
I don't want that car to get damaged. Is that a bad example?
I'm trying to think of it my own, I guess. This one's tougher. It's like
it's very tough.
Why would you?
What has zero urgency but all the importance?
Yeah. How many? It's like okay. Water is really important.
Mm-hmm. Having water.
I'm sorry, water is urgent.
What, like thirst?
Man, okay. I'm trying to figure this out.
This is tough.
Water's important. But what water you specifically drink in this lifetime isn't necessarily urgent.
As long as it's dirty.
I need to drink water, not
water.
Well, you could clean it.
True, purify it.
This specific 10 trillion atoms of oxygen and hydrogen that I might be holding somewhere, I could throw that away and never drink it, and it's fine. Because there's other water I could drink.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
I don't know. It's like...
It's a tough example.
Why would I ever have to drink that water? I could put that off the list. What are things that are so
It's important that we have bananas, but I don't necessarily have to have a banana my entire life.
right? Yeah,
So does that make them important then?
important.
Well, they're important for monkeys, right?
Yeah, I mean,
They might eat other things.
and maybe they're your favorite fruit,
It's just the
so it's
stereotype.
more important to you.
Right?
So that's where its importance is more based on you. Urgency is based on reality.
Right. It's your reactions.
The
to
reality is there's just bananas. So like
Yeah.
the
go
only
buy
urgency
some.
there would be is like, okay, maybe we know bananas are going to go extinct in 5 years. So if you want a banana, you better eat it in the next 5 years. I don't know. But either way, a decision that's extremely important but could be put off until later is important but not urgent. And the things that hit both meters, like if you don't do it now, you won't ever get to do it. And it's one of the most important things you could ever do. It's like, if you want to be a famous child actor, you can't wait till you're 20.
Yeah.
And if you wait until you're 20 and being a famous child actor is your life's mission, then you failed your life's mission.
Yeah,
it's done.
If that was the one.
You don't get another opportunity to be a child actor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a strange example.
No, I hear what you're saying. Urgency and importance means priorities. We were talking about the importance of priorities because I have gained priorities from what I've learned from philosophy.
Right.
I don't know if you have anything else to add about priorities.
It's just that, I guess, analyzing your priorities means looking at what you have to do now if you want to live the life you want to live, and looking at what you could put off till later, and looking at what you don't ever have to do, and looking at what
and your priorities are
comes
subject
first.
to change.
Your priorities are what come first.
Mm-hmm.
You look at them and you think about them and you act on them first, and then you can go do your other things that aren't as urgent or not as important. So if you want to be a child actor, you better be working on being a child actor early.
Priorities.
You have to prioritize it. And that means sacrificing other things. Prioritization means sacrifice.
Yeah, and your priorities are based on what you want to be in life. If you say, I want to be the best boxer in the world, your priorities have to go with that idea.
Yeah.
Or it won't happen.
Right.
Like me
Totally
and
agree.
Seth have priorities. That's why we're sitting in front of this camera with this whiteboard here.
Right.
We made a lot of decisions.
Yeah.
It
It is important to me to have conversations like this.
Yeah.
And it is urgent to record them.
I agree. What do you think that this is offering? What is this exact... Everything about what we're doing here, matter of fact, what is it offering?
It is almost infinitely more meaningful because it is it's similar to a book. It's recorded. It's information that has been preserved for others to, like Socrates never wrote anything, but thank goodness somebody who was taught by him did.
Right.
Or we wouldn't have anything from Socrates. So the urgency of it is that if we have the conversation but never record it in the moment, we never keep it. So it is when do we have to record this conversation for us to have it? It can't be later. It's got to be now. We have to put the camera up now. It's urgent. So we're getting to do a thing that's important to us personally, but we're also getting to do a thing that's important to everyone urgently. It's combining the two, and that's like you said, that's why we're sitting here, is because we prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're sitting there having these conversations, and we're not recording it, and we're thinking, we should be recording this. Why are we thinking that? Because we understand the urgency. Like, we're missing this.
Fair. I guess my only question would be, what do you enjoy so much about this to where it gave it such a priority as to it happening? And then what is it, by recording these and by the public being able to take them in, what perspective are they achieving?
Personally, philosophy is important because what I'm getting out of it is, number one, I'll give multiple things. Number one, it's fun.
Facts.
I enjoy it, especially talking about it with someone else, but also even just sitting and exploring the thoughts in my own head or reading about it on my own. And it's like, so on that level, it's just in my nature. The things we enjoy are just in our nature.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them are necessarily good. Not all of them are necessarily bad. But
we have our vices.
If philosophy was a vice, it'd be one of mine.
You're right.
I just enjoy it. And then exploring it with a friend, having a conversation about it, I get even more out of that because I'm gaining perspective from someone else and their philosophy, which helps me come to deeper, more meaningful conclusions on my own philosophy. And it helps me analyze myself because there's something to compare myself to. And then even deeper than that, recording the conversation with my friend is important to me because it's even more enjoyable to me.
Same.
When more people are involved.
I didn't even let you finish.
I mean, is it more enjoyable to you to just the fact that there's a camera and we're on microphones?
I enjoy that.
And I'm like, so you're like, you're just, even I said that, you know, I'm like, it's more enjoyable to me. And you're like, yeah, this is the fact that there's a camera and we've got microphones. It's more enjoyable. And I'm like, why? Well, there's more people involved.
I don't think you take it the same way. I might be wrong, but I take it as a challenge. I recognize this as it's challenging me.
I value that, but I think I value the involvement of others more.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where what I'm getting out of it more, and that's more of what's important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Is the sphere of what's happening, of the effect of the words I'm saying.
It's a great word.
Growing.
So influence.
Yes.
I would agree. That's pretty high up there.
It's like, now, okay, I have all these thoughts on my own, and it's important to me because I'm enjoying coming to it. It's like,
and we're learning.
It's fascinating
we're
to
learning.
me. It's very fascinating to me. It's like almost like a high when I learn new things, or when especially, and I've talked to you about this before, especially when I learn the one thing and I learn another thing, and then I learn something in between that connects the two.
Dude, you did it in this episode.
Yes.
Urgency and importance
Yes.
with priorities.
Yes. I love the more complex meanings you can get from separate ideas. It's like ingredients.
It's like encaptured.
Yes. Yes.
Encaptured is not a word yet, but it will be.
Well, I'll say encaptured.
Yeah, I
you convinced at least one more person.
Yeah, and you know what I mean when I say it.
Yeah. We'll use encaptured.
Yeah.
That's our code now.
Decode mode.
Yeah, as a matter of fucking fact.
Dude, matter of fact. Dude, we got Vocab Lab, Question Quest, AI Spy.
We're just all over
Decode
the board
mode.
here. So
Decode mode. That was very Mordecai of me.
Yeah.
Decode
mode.
Whoa.
Whoa.
In capture. I'm not putting the definition.
Yeah.
At least not on today's episode.
But the more people I see, or when I have a conversation, for example, like with my friend, and we're talking, and they bring up something like priorities, and I connect the dots on it with them, and we come to deeper conclusions together, it's even more fascinating to me.
Yeah, we're like creating ground. Different ground.
I'm seeing how another person's absorbing this information, which is I'm learning even more just by psychoanalyzing David in the process of us both learning things. It's like even more of something to compare myself to okay, this is the way I learned it. This is the way David's learning it. Humans are the same, but very different.
Mm-hmm.
It's like strange and fascinating. And then I'm coming to conclusions that are making my life feel better through philosophy and through discussing it with David. I'm doing things, some of them very disciplined and some of them less disciplined,
Mm-hmm.
that are aligning more with
Your values and your priorities.
yes. I'm rearranging my priorities in life, and I'm kicking certain things off the list altogether. I'm bringing things in that never were really there, and the enjoyment that I'm getting out of life is more profound. And if it's possible for someone else to experience more of that, I would. That's the world I would want to see. Is a world where more people are experiencing profound joy from their life. There's deeper levels of internal meaning that can be even made sense of through philosophy and through science, and that we can prove deeper meaning scientifically, and that learning about the world around us is deeply human. It's a thing we do. We recognize patterns, we learn through them, and we want to know answers, and that it's a growing experience and a very nourishing experience to follow that deep, innate human trait of learning. Our mind is the thing that evolved past what we were before. There's not much different about us and monkeys, but we have a mind that recognizes deeper, more complex semiotic patterns, symbols that represent the world around us. We have a deeper understanding of the universe and what it dictates and why it dictates it and how we became a product of all that. And the more people who get involved with that and the more people who find the joy that I'm finding in it, the more joy I'd find in it. It's almost like science in motion. It's almost like instead of looking at a book writing about what we've learned in the past, it's more philosophy and science taking place in the now, in the present, in my life, in reality. People becoming more philosophical, people studying more, people making new discoveries, so that science isn't in a state, it's not frozen in time. It is progressive.
How has philosophy most affected your life recently?
I've been more introspective. I've been more critical of myself. But I've also let go of a lot of criticism of myself and others. And the emotional reactions I was having that was driving those criticisms. Because the nature of the universe is that I am an instinctual and emotional being. And when I am confronted with or come up against things that drive those emotions, like when someone's not doing what I would imagine they should be doing because my philosophy says they should do this thing. It's like building on top of my philosophy that says that I should be doing this healthy thing is even more philosophy that is letting go of whether other people are doing it or not. And not judging their journey and being critical of my own journey more than others. And then also because of that, looking at where maybe my journey's not perfect and others' journey might be beneficial to me.
Or at least to add a part.
Yeah. Stray my path a little closer to theirs. Maybe there's some sight I wasn't seeing because my path was behind these trees, you know. And I'm like, I'll go around these trees this time so I can see that thing. And it's like,
and that's very symbolic of you to say.
yeah. And it's helping me be more objective about my journey and what I'm doing, and less tortured about like why other people are the way they are, etc. You know, I'm just more focused on myself and my own path.
I could agree a lot with that.
And it's like, it's not that
recently for me.
It's like I still really want to see other people recognize and come to the realization of a lot of the truths that I see. But I'm less worried about, and in fact, I'm in a principled way, I am against myself shoving it at them.
I understand.
And I'm more pro leading by example. And it's almost like I'm talking shit a little more in a lot of ways, but I'm talking shit a lot less in other ways. And I'm really just doing things. I'm trying to do more of what I say I'm going to do and do less of saying what other people should do. I should just say what I'm going to do or do it and then say I did it.
Yeah, that's a weakness of mine that I've been trying to look into.
Same here.
Yeah.
I would say our roommate also experiences a lot of
Which
that.
is cool because it offers hope and inspiration and excitement. But if you get lost in that excitement and you don't capitalize and you just get too giddy to even take it seriously, which I'm guilty of that at times. I
really try to be like, okay, this person's doing this thing, and I don't think they should do that. But then I'm like, okay, it's not even that I think they shouldn't. It's really, I'm just projecting. I think I shouldn't.
I've been looking a lot into projection.
Projection's huge.
Projection, we're going to have to talk about that. Yeah. We're going to have to make that a topic in itself.
Yeah. Projection is huge, and it's very philosophical.
Yeah, projection is this is very difficult. I was going to say it's a harmful idea almost. It's painful. It's a painful idea.
It's painful.
Because that means the more agonizingly you're depicting someone else negatively means that's exactly what you're doing to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, in a lot of situations, that can make you a hypocrite. And I would say if there's anything that the ego denies more than anything else, it's hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
If they see themselves as a hypocrite, their whole statue falls to bits. So it's touchy territory to talk about projection. And it sucks because I believe in a lot of it. There was this shattering quote that was like, we only hate in others what we hate in ourselves. It would not disturb you if it would not, you wouldn't even be paying attention to them if it wasn't something that's already in you. And that's tough for me because then it's like, okay, does that mean that I can't be angry with someone? Is that what that means? Is that the new dictation? If I'm angry with them, I'm just angry at myself, so that's acting irrationally. Is that what that means? And it's like, I don't think that's what that means.
No.
I think I should be able to act angrily depending on what they're doing. If they're trying to kill me, I should be able to be like, even if it's me thinking about myself, they're wrong and shouldn't be doing that, regardless of if that's what I'm thinking of myself. Yeah, it's tough.
So if the scientist was pointing a gun at you, telling you to press the button, would you fight them?
Depends on what they did.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they're pointing a gun in my face
is already
damn near pretty much enough for me. It's like,
yeah.
No, I'm not pressing the button, but I'm not even saying that.
Yeah, it's like, what the
you got a gun in my face?
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Yeah.
You're getting fucked up, bro. Like,
matter of fact,
don't point a gun in my face.
Yeah, bro. No, I hear that, but it's like this is where projection gets really tricky. But I'm trying to think of what even exactly got us to projection. What did you say that made me say that?
How you asked how philosophy has
affected your life recently,
and it's like I'm recognizing mine and other people's projection more. I'm better at psychoanalysis.
Yes, projection makes me hyper skeptical or very, very skeptical into criticizing others' life paths.
Yes,
it makes it almost feel impossible. And then I have to be like, is that bad? Is it bad to intrude on another person's life path? Always. No, I don't think it's bad always.
Yeah.
When does it become bad? Is it bad for me to say that I think objectively health is better than illness, so just by proxy of logical deduction, I can hold a stance of you're wrong and I'm right?
Yeah.
That's tough.
But, okay, so here's where it's like I draw the line. Sometimes somebody will ask you what you think of their weight. And that's when you should be honest.
Okay.
Because they've opened the door and invited you in, and you're not intruding.
I have a quick question. Do you think this is the public's fault, what I'm about to ask? Do you think that it's whenever I talk to Patty Pimblett the way that I did, that I'm going against him, that I am throwing a stone? I'm questioning his influence. I'm questioning his philosophy.
If he asked you what you think about his eating, you should answer honestly.
Right. So imagine.
And if you're not, waiting for him to be like, yo, David, I want to know your opinion about my nutritional health, then you are throwing a stone through his window and climbing in.
Right. This is the thing. It's like I'm trying to come up with an example. The only way that I can have a concrete example is if I give you a tangible person who's doing the behavior that I'm thinking of.
So he never asked.
He never asked.
You're also not just saying it to him. You're saying it more as an example.
And what could happen, imagine I get millions of views and he gets millions of views.
Yeah.
People watching this will be like commenting on his stuff. Like, well, this is ridiculous. This David said.
I could take a clip of you saying, and he can live his life however he wants.
Yeah.
Because you said that. So it's like, he can live his life however he wants. That's not your point.
Yes.
You're more reflecting on what someone else is doing to give an example of what you wouldn't do.
So I'm saying they're a bad example. At least in the dictations of my philosophy, these are the conclusions that I have come to.
In a way, you're projecting onto him.
Right.
Or you're projecting him onto you.
Yeah.
But
where he's doing something that I think is hedonistic and unnecessary, and maybe I'm doing something very hedonistic and unnecessary.
Or just maybe it's that you being that hedonistic is not what's right for you.
Right.
And you can tell because when you see it, you're rejecting it.
Right. And then it's like my goal with that rejection, and this is where my light can come off as darkness, or maybe it is darkness and I see it as light, is I'm trying to give the world, to the best of my ability, a higher quality of life. This sounds like a tyrannical perspective, but it's a perspective that says that if you pursue health, always, your quality of life will always be better. So I cannot, at this moment, think of a good enough reason to not do that. That's my argument.
Yeah.
And since I'm drawing a fine line in the sand, I have to be like, okay, well, this is what my argument is exactly poking at to display the perspective.
Yeah.
And it's like that by proxy, that's a shot. By proxy, that it influences the masses. By proxy, there's like an unspoken rivalry, even though that might not be at all what it is.
Do you lose any quality of life from being healthy?
You do lose certain qualities of life.
You're losing something to gain something.
Right.
And you're saying you're going to gain more of these other things than you lose of these things.
I think the pros are more important than the cons.
Yeah, because you lose eating whatever you want.
Yep.
You lose a little bit of time because you got to go to the gym.
Yep.
You lose a little bit of pleasure or at least comfort and relaxation because your muscles hurt.
Right.
And so health is not a 100% gains you quality of life. It, to some degree, takes away your quality of life.
In aspects, yes.
In aspects.
My argument is overall quality.
Yeah, the
higher.
Cumulative or the net.
The highest.
Or the gross.
The highest possible place of being.
No, it's net.
Resides in that path. And my argument is every human being wants that. I cannot think of a good enough convincing argument to why they wouldn't.
They want what, the pinnacle of human living?
In my opinion, pursuing health gives you the highest place of being. Highest place of being
like
is
status?
It could be. It's the overall at least practiced for long periods of time, very long, lifelong, least amount of suffering.
So then also the least amount of pleasure. The most neutral.
That's interesting. That would make sense because that's what makes it an objective claim.
It's like you're losing good tasting food for your whole life.
That's not completely true, but
Not completely
I hear
true.
you.
You're losing out on
when
some.
you want it. You cannot have it just whenever you want. You
Yeah.
probably want it every day. You probably want it a lot every day. But
Yeah.
you have to say no, because if you chase or if you pursue that, there's it's all a balancing act. As soon as you start treading into that hedonistic territory, there's different layers of pros and different layers of cons. And my argument is the amount of suffering is higher in that realm. The amount of meaninglessness is higher in that realm. And humans aspire towards, for the most part, the least amount of overall suffering and the most amount of overall meaning and truth.
I'm trying to remain as objective here as I can
This
and
is
look at
tough,
the other
bro.
side.
I love it.
Is there maybe some meaning you're missing out on when it comes to the hedonistic lifestyle?
Possibly.
I'm trying to imagine very
Stop and
specific
smell the roses.
examples. What if somebody eats a certain thing all the time because their mom cooked it for them? And it's their favorite thing their mom cooked for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds them of their mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so they spend their whole life drawing on the meaning of motherhood and nurturing and providing sustenance to a child through this memory of their mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine if they were disgustingly unhealthy.
They become obese from this
Right.
impulse. This is where psychoanalysis comes in, but I hear you.
Maybe they won't have a kid, but what if they do? And then this kid is a girl.
Okay.
And this girl carries forward this archetype of a nurturing, loving mother. And she raises 3 kids that are all prodigies. They're like exemplary individuals.
Okay.
And they do amazing things because they had a very loving, an archetypal, like, perfect form mother that nurtured them the right way. And she just so happened to be
Hedonistic?
the daughter of a hedonistic man. The pleasure he was taking was meaningful.
So I hear what you're saying. So that's almost like, tell me if I'm wrong or if you disagree, but is that like the lab rat method? Like it's an
I don't know what you mean.
experiment. Like they practice hedonism to an extreme degree, almost as maybe not consciously, but like a subject influenced by that and captured environment.
Mm. I'm seeing it more as their nature.
And then what happens from that is that they're able to look at that lab rat, the extreme example, and then base what they agree or disagree on from that frame, and then digest it and create something that maybe is more meaningful, and maybe they learned a powerful lesson from that hedonism.
I'm saying archetypes stem from from the diversity of human life.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone was brave because some people were nurturing. And that bravery is an important archetype, but so are other archetypes. And that some people will, because of some archetypes, live out their life in a different way, maybe a more hedonistic way, or whatever it may be, or specifically hedonistic. It's like a specific type of pleasure that maybe they never do heroin, but they eat wrong their whole life. Wrong. I'm saying maybe it's actually right. Maybe because all these different kinds of people exist, we get all the different kinds of archetypes coming out.
I hear that. Is that like a spice of life argument?
Yeah.
Okay. Variety.
The
fact that it's possible is why it happened, and the fact that it's there is it's observable because of that fact.
It's there, and that is in a way a truth.
Now my thing is, with evolution and coming to consciousness, is that going to die out? Are they not going to be able to keep up? The truth is that they should not be doing that, and it will eventually die out.
We're evolving away from archetypes?
Well,
or certain ones.
If we accept that health is objective, if we say health is, this is where like philosophy comes into play.
Our evolution brought about consciousness.
Right.
So we evolved to, so consciousness itself is even an archetype.
And we embody everything. We embody everything that's possible within consciousness.
Yes.
I'm not saying we don't. But I'm saying if humanity laid down the law, and this sucks because I hate what this implies. Like forced working out, that's not so much what I mean. I mean more so the women only choose the fit. Yeah. So all the only way that someone down here, the hedonistic realm, could compete is status. So that's where you get like the DJ Khaled's, where he says I don't lose weight because I never lose, and he's like, it's cope. But it's like he's holding that position in the higher echelon. But maybe it gets to a point where only fit people can stay in that competitive bracket of status. And then only women are choosing them. So this hedonistic thing just dies out.
I'm going to give a prediction.
Okay.
I predict that so long as humans exist, they will all allow some level of hedonism.
Allow some level is different. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
And that some of them will go further and some of them won't.
Okay. Do you think maybe the percentage is going to get less?
I think it fluctuates.
Okay.
It may get less, than also it will after that get more.
Well, let me give my prediction real quick, and then I want to wrap this up.
Okay.
This has been dope. Matter of factly, been dope. Matter of fact. I imagine, so it's like Elon is going to go to Mars. Let's paint that out. That's what happens. Let's say him and his team are in charge of the people that are allowed to go. What if there's a certain fitness requirement to even shoot off into space?
Okay.
The only way that you can keep up and keep going with humanity is because some person or some group of people dictates something that requires a higher level of fitness and agility.
Due diligence and philosophy even.
Right. And then I could see Mars as just one example where we only let certain people go. We only have a certain number of rockets. We don't have time to build all these rockets. Maybe Earth's in a dire situation. Something crazy is going to happen to Earth. So we're all migrating to Mars. And it's like that could, in a way, be a way that all of that, that's not to say no one ever is possible to get fat. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying the 1% just wouldn't leak out. That probably would. But I think evolution itself and genetics themselves and DNA itself will change.
Yes.
I think so. And hedonism will be far less, I think.
I hear that argument.
Right.
I think I don't even want to try to refute it. It's
excessive hedonism.
Yeah.
That's mainly
I understand that your prediction. I don't agree, but I understand.
Right. I respect that because I understand where you're coming from as well.
I think it
could be either.
I think hedonism is an archetype.
Fair.
I think all the archetypes, even if if you took enough, because we're gonna get too far into it if I do this, but
Well,
it's
we
like,
need to talk about archetypes on an episode anyway.
yeah, it's like,
Can you summarize as like a final?
How many humans does it take if you isolated enough humans? Because we know how genes work, and if brother and sister keep making babies together, those babies make
Right.
babies together, and the human race would die out. If you only put 5 humans together
Right.
and killed all the other humans, those 5 humans would never be able to survive.
Okay.
And there are people who have studied this, and the answer that I am aware of is like it takes at least 98 humans
To
reproduce together in a way that there's enough diversity in their genes
okay.
that they won't turn out
Okay. Yeah.
deficient.
Inbred.
Yes. So we need a diversity of humans. So you're going to have at least 98 real strong people in there.
Mm-hmm.
Because apparently being real strong is a requirement. You have to be physically fit to go to Mars.
I don't know if that's exactly true. I put a variable there just to give an example.
Yeah.
That might be true.
Yeah. So 98 people have to go at least. And let's say
Okay.
they all have to be physically fit. So hedonism is going to be
Less
prevalent in this 98 people.
Right. For now.
Yeah. Those 98 people are going to have a lot of kids, and all those kids are going to be different.
Right.
And some of them are going to do what their parents do, and some of them are going to not do what their parents do.
Mm-hmm.
And the diversity of archetypes will flourish in the coming years after that.
I have a rebuttal.
Okay.
What if science gets to a point where the food that we intake has everything we need in it, and you can mathematically decide all the protein, all the carbs, all the fat. This is excessive, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like ChatGPT invents food.
Like makes it easy to be healthy?
Literally, it transmits the food into your body. Sure, there are going to be like scientists especially that fiddle with putting more calories in to see how obesity affects them.
But
the
taste
average,
goes away.
Yeah, I mean, you can have it taste like whatever you want. I'm trying to think of like a magical system, which might be possible, where the hedonism can still be achieved, where it tastes like a Wendy's cheeseburger, but you're able to have a 6-pack abs and everything. They would choose that.
Yes.
This is where I'm like, if science gets to a point where we can rid hedonism out, I think we'd take it.
I think we would pick 100% hedonism with 100% health.
Yes. It's like if I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want, do whatever I want, but look great, feel great.
That's where we get what we want is
Yeah.
to fully embody every archetype possible.
Yes.
And so we would want to turn up the dial on hedonism and athleticism.
But we need the science there first
Yes.
to allow that.
So the state of the world is as much as all the dials can be turned up as they can within our capability.
Like chasing the top of the mountain, is that what you mean?
Science and
Humanity,
technology and engineering.
Philosophy, everything.
Yes, it's attempting to turn up the dials more.
Yeah, it's like how can we allow someone to do whatever they want whenever they want and also have the quality of life that's required of that being hard?
Yes. But it's like, what if all technology is doing is making everything easy, and then we get to embody all the archetypes we want as easy as possible?
Now, my argument is we're not there yet.
No.
So you shouldn't.
If we're talking about where we're at right now, great. You can spend now trying to come up with the technology to improve on those things.
Make hedonism realistic.
But in the process, if you're living here today, I don't think you should give up hedonism.
Not completely.
You should find an accurate place for the dial to sit. We have come up with solutions that make us we're allowed to be a little hedonistic.
I don't think the dial should ever
Hit zero.
Should never hit obesity. I don't think the dial should ever hit.
Obesity isn't hedonism. Obesity is a symptom.
Sure. But if your hedonism is the thing causing it, then hedonism should
Right.
never hit obesity.
Obesity should never be the outcome, no matter what the dial is you're turning up.
If hedonism makes you hate being in your body, you've gone too far.
Yeah.
If hedonism makes you...
You've turned the dial of some other archetype down too much to allow this hedonism dial to be up.
Yes, and hedonism is the siren. Hedonism a void that you're always chasing a fix from.
It's also, in a way, the meaning of life.
Right. It's like when we think of heaven, we think of, okay, none of us are ever going to die, surplus of life, energy, intellect. I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want, and I always look this great, and I'm always sexually viable, and yes, that's like heaven.
If we didn't have all these other dials, if we could just get rid of those all and turn up hedonism, that's what we would pick.
Right.
So it's
if we could have everything that we want.
Yes.
In every single outlet of life, sure, hedonism would be what we could pick. If science could get to that point, then I can't refute it. But you have to make a decision with your hedonism. And there are times when it goes too far, and you might disagree with me.
It's like
it depends on it depends on your priorities, and it depends on the outcome of your decisions.
This is where maybe our definitions of the end is different, but it's like if turning up athleticism more means turning down hedonism too much, you're missing out on some of the meaning of life.
I hear that.
So you're finding the balance, because the people on the other end, it's like if you're turning up the hedonism dial too much to where athleticism goes down, you're still missing out on some of the meaning of life. And if you want to achieve the highest level of meaning in your life, finding a balance on your dials.
And health was the easiest dial for me to recognize.
Fair. That's
as soon as it hits the realm of health,
you're real comfortable turning that dial up as much as you can.
Yes.
Like,
I think health is where it becomes the most solid all around. That's where the dial goes too far, is as soon as you approach unhealthy territory.
Yeah.
That's when it's like, not only I want you to change your ways, but I don't understand why you wouldn't.
Is hedonism...
No. I think I know what you're going to ask.
Healthy?
Oh, yes, it can be.
I think hedonism is important.
In days and weeks, and yes.
It's like remembering the taste of your mom's cooking, like when you're a kid.
I agree.
Is hedonistic and healthy.
Yeah.
And if turning up the athletics dial forces you to get rid of remembering the taste of your mom's cooking when you were a kid, it's unhealthy.
Yes. It's healthy. It's like, I'm trying to think on the opposite end. If you go too far into health, or what you believe is health, that also becomes...
I think healthy is... It takes all of them, all the archetype, all the meaning of life. It takes all of it to be in balance.
It's like a balancing act.
The healthiest.
Yeah, it's tranquility.
Yeah. It's like...
equilibrium.
Deeply meaningful. It's like apex. It's like fucking the pinnacle.
Yeah, and
you're going to miss out on some health somewhere if you're turning up the health too much in another place.
And if you're avoiding hedonism at all points of your life, if there's no hedonistic impulse in you, there could be a lot of regret that stems from that. You could look back on your life and wish that you took more chances that you didn't. You wish you would have maybe listened to that impulse or intuition, because hedonism can provide insight and intuition. It can give you a taste of who you are, your likes and your dislikes.
Yeah.
It can define you. So I'm not on an anti-hedonism kick.
It's a pro-balance kick.
Pro-health as well.
Yeah. Health and balance, I feel like, are almost equivalent terms in my mind.
Fair. Yeah. Health is a essential, unavoidable fact of humanity.
We should, as a last act, define health.
Yes, I'd love to.
Maybe ask ChatGPT. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, let's see what ChatGPT has to say. Define health.
Is there an echo here?
Health is the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, it encompasses the ability to adapt to physical, emotional, and environmental challenges, maintain equilibrium, and achieve a quality of life that allows individuals to function optimally in their daily activities. True health also involves preventive care, resilience, and harmony between mind, body, and environment. And
if you didn't hear it somewhere, you heard it here, as a matter of fact.
Matter of fact. Thanks, guys.